Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. Chaos in Minneapolis. Everything from a no-go zone that the protesters kind of took over the city with, to an agent losing his finger because a protester bit it off, as well as a protester losing his life tragically. We're going to get into it all, as well as geopolitics. The front half of the show is really loaded with Minneapolis news.
Yes.
So we've been kind of watching it all week and along with live footage.
Mm-hmm. But first, I do want to, First, I do want to say hello to Rafa. So, hello, Rafa. Thank you for being here. Rafa says, hello, miss you all the week. Same here. And also to remind you that please subscribe, but also comment, because we do read all your comments live.
Yeah. Okay, before we get into what happened in Minnesota, let's go into something that happened in China last night. It was breaking news. I just want to add it up front before we get into the main segment.
Sure.
Extra, read all about it.
Okay, so hold on, there we are. So from Warren versus CCP says, quote, one busy night in Beijing, the coup attempt failed. Unfortunately, she received intelligence 2 hours before the incident and since arrested nearly 3,000 people, including military personnel and their families.
Yeah, and when we get into our Asia Chinese section later on in the show, I'm going to get into the details of this. I just wanted to put it up front because it is big news. This coup has been going on, or kind of tensions has been rising in China for almost 12 months now. I've been kind of keeping up on it. Once in a while, we'll bring it up on the show. But finally, it looks like the main general that was opposing Xi kind of made a move. They arrested him, and supposedly he was broken out of jail by his loyalists. That's where it kind of stands right now. But let's get into what happened in Minnesota.
Sure.
And Minnesota was really the big news of the weekend. I mean, anywhere you looked, that's what was on the mainstream media, independent media, on everything. Mm-hmm. We'll start with Tim Walz and what he had to say here. Yes. And if you don't know, Tim Walz is the governor of Minnesota. This is where a lot of the fraud was going on. And this is the original reason a lot of law enforcement was called to the states and federal agents.
So Chief Nerd says, quote, Governor Walz, this federal occupation in Minnesota long ago stopped being a matter of immigration enforcement. And he has been going hard against ICE, CBP, and the federal officers trying to enforce the law.
Well, and if you don't know what that flag is behind him, not the U.S. one, but the one that looks like the Somali flag, that's not the Somali flag. That's actually the new Minnesota state flag. He got rid of the original flag and wanted to kind of court the Somali voters. So he made the official Minnesota state flag look like the Somali flag. I don't hear anything.
I don't hear anything either. Hold on.
Okay, Nat's going to fix some audio issues really quick.
There we
go. Okay, there we go.
Long ago stopped being a matter of immigration enforcement. It's a campaign of organized brutality against the people of our state. And today that campaign claimed another life. I've seen the videos from several angles, and it's sickening. But I have a strong statement here for our federal government. Minnesota's justice system will have the last word on this. It must have the last word. Well, as I said last week,
okay, and I will say everybody's probably seen what happened with the protester that lost his life. I think it was an absolute tragic accident, a series of events that really shouldn't have happened. I think the officer was in the wrong there. That being said, I don't think the officer should be convicted of a crime because it was just a series of mishaps, and you're not going to get everything perfect. Also, though, the family of the victim should get a multi-million-dollar settlement from either the feds or Minnesota state officials.
Yes, and I mean, we'll continue to see kind of what has happened since. We'll also get a little bit into the incident in a bit, but let's see first.
No, I didn't want to go past what Tim Walz was saying. Okay. A lot of the responsibility actually lands on Tim Walz. You're not seeing this happen in any other states right now, especially red states. What's happening is state officials are cooperating with ICE, meaning they're giving lists of names of people that have been convicted of crimes that are illegal aliens and giving them their addresses, and ICE is simply going to enforce warrants. In Minnesota, they're not giving over any of that information. And matter of fact, Tim Walz is doing exactly the opposite. He's really taking all of his power, whether it's National State Guard or local law enforcement, and kind of pinning it against federal law enforcement. And that's why you're having a lot of these tragic incidents in Minnesota.
And yeah, as you say, I think the main thing, it falls on the enticement that has been happening by those that should be enforcing the law and making sure that these types of incidents don't continue to happen in the state. But after Renee Good, that tragic incident happened, something should have been done. I think both by federal, but also especially by Tim Walz and Jacob Frey, who is the mayor of Minneapolis.
Yeah, and I want to make one thing clear. I am not excusing what happened with that protester over the weekend in any way, shape, or form, but a lot of the responsibility falls on state officials as well as federal officials here. So Tim Walz is really trying to pin this as this is Donald Trump and federal officials. Those federal officials aren't used to pulling security for themselves. There should have been police officers there. Tim Walz told them not to cooperate with ICE and with federal officials. So you had an amplification of the situation here.
Yes, and also, I mean, interrupting federal law enforcement should be considered a crime and should be aided by, aiding the protesters not to be getting into those situations in the first place. That falls on the state because it's their own people. So by having ICE also have to deal with the protesters because there's nobody else there to back them up. We saw what happened at the hotel over the weekend as well. 2 officers that were allegedly supposed to be staying there. We still don't fully know if it was CBP or ICE or what kind of law enforcement they were completely attacked, and police were just standing by. They were there, but they were standing by without doing much.
Yeah. If I were to say, what does this look like to me? In Iran, the Trump administration looks like they're trying to organize a color revolution. It looks like the Democratic Party, along with a lot of outside forces from Europe, are trying to create a color revolution within the state of Minnesota. So I guess Trump's doing it overseas, so they're trying to do it to him.
Fix the background.
Okay, we can go into the next story here.
Okay. So we have this from Mike Engelman. Says, quote, Pam Bondi saying, we sent Tim Walz a very strong letter today. We have been working on this letter. And he says, are you effing S-ing me? WTAF. Pam Bondi should resign.
Yeah,
because this was one of the first responses after what happened in Minnesota.
Well, and a lot of conservatives, especially top officials, had really bad responses in their immediate reaction. A lot of them have shifted or changed what they said originally.
Rape, homicide, manslaughter. That's who they're trying to protect in Minnesota. I do not understand these people. We sent Governor Walz a very strong letter today. We had been working on this letter. We got it out saying that he better support President Trump. He better support the men and women in law enforcement, because if he doesn't, we are. And that's what we're doing right now.
Were there any consequences in this letter?
Well, we'll see. This is fluid. Let's see how Governor Walz responds. Let's see what he does based on this, based on what's happening right now. But this administration is going to support the citizens. We're going to support our great men and women in law enforcement side.
Yeah, I've kind of called Pam Bondi out from the beginning. She was the weak link in the Trump administration. This, again, you knew what was going to happen when you went into Minnesota. So you should have been better prepared and had a game plan. Even though there was a few tragic endings of lives so far in Minnesota, it hasn't really gone too far you're not seeing the protests spread. I mean, it has gone too far as there's lives lost, but you haven't seen the protests spread yet. I think they need to get ahead of this and kind of tone down ICE on the streets, door knocking, potentially even take ICE out of the state and bring in the IRS, bring in DOJ agencies, really focus in on the corruption within the daycare, within the Somali community, make a lot of public headlines with that, and attempt to get cooperation from state officials. Obviously, they're not going to cooperate at this point. So you're going to have to come up with a new game plan, because in the eyes of your average Joe, they're not liking what they're going to see on TV, and the midterms are coming up. Potentially, what you could do is realize what's going well with your immigration enforcement and what's not. ICE arresting people and deporting them, you actually have very little deportations, but where the Trump administration is having actual tremendous success is self-deportations at the airport. They've started a program where they give $2,600 and a plane ticket anywhere in the world to each illegal immigrant that wants to leave, and that also comes with a promise they can come back in the future if they do it the legal way. They need to expand that program to not just at the airports. If they turn themselves in at a police station or anywhere, they'll not only get $2,500, maybe up it to $5,000 and put a $2,500 reward for anybody that kind of whistleblows on an illegal immigrant that actually results in the exiting of that illegal immigrant.
But don't you think that that kind of backing down by the Trump administration, by the federal administration, would just make this spiral even further? Because the left is already, we're going to get into it in a little bit, but the left is already celebrating the fact that they are slightly turning back from Minnesota right now.
Yeah, you're seeing leftists realize the more tragic incidents that happen, the better it is. The more the general public is on their side, they're going to be able to impeach Trump if they win the midterms. So I think as long as ICE is on the ground there, these incidents are going to continue to happen. The left is going to continue to get more radicalized, and you need a new game plan. If the goal is to get rid of illegal immigrants, what you're doing at the airports is working and there are no violent incidents. What is happening on the ground with ICE obviously isn't working in blue states. You can still focus on your red states where you're getting cooperation, but offer big incentive bonuses for illegal immigrants, especially in blue states. Maybe even in red states, you offer $2,500 if you go back to your origin country, where you give $10,000 bonuses to illegal immigrants for leaving if they're from blue states.
But if a child misbehaves and breaks the law just by entering your house in the wrong way, should you be rewarding them in such a high manner as you mentioned, just to leave?
Yeah.
But the first breaking of due process was done by the illegal migrants that entered into the country illegally.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you in any shape, way.
So why reward them that much?
Yeah, so what's happening in November?
Midterms.
The midterms, yeah. And what's happening on the news right now?
Well, but at the same time,
Trump's losing public sentiment, especially from
not that much, actually.
Not from
more than half of the general population agree with the deportations. Right now.
Almost all the incidents have been luckily enough not to be extremely out of line. You can excuse it in some shape or form. If something happens to a child, which they're bringing children,
well, they already tried to use that, but luckily the lies were debunked fast enough.
How many people are you actually deporting with ICE?
Not that much.
Very few.
Yeah.
So why don't you use what's working with the airport and just expand that program and then kind of promote it as it is working? And also, if you offer a reward system to the general public for turning in illegal immigrants, but still give the illegal immigrant money when they leave so they can get their life together, it looks more humanitarian for your moderates. And it's really your moderate voters you're trying to appeal to. On top of that, your average ICE agent that's getting recruited isn't getting proper training. There's mass recruitment going on, and it's $200,000 per ICE agent. You can put that to incentive bonuses to illegal migrants themselves, which you're probably going to, on par, get a lot more self-deporting if that's the case.
But we also saw today, after that strongly worded letter that Pam Bondi was talking about, this is from Red Wave Press, says, quote, President Trump announced that he had a very good call with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who reached out requesting to work together, and we'll see why maybe in a little bit, on issues in the state amid ongoing immigration operations and recent incidents in Minneapolis. He was happy that Tom Homan was going to Minnesota, and so am I, said Trump. And we'll see what he actually wrote on Truth Social.
Yeah, and he does look like he's trying to cooperate here. And if he does back down, yes, it is going to make him look weak in the short term, but people are going to forget about this by the time the midterms come up. And if he can steer clear of blue states, but offer incentive bonus programs for illegal immigrants to self-deport, he could really win the moderates before the midterms.
Moments ago, Governor Tim Walz called me with the request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call, and we actually seem to be on a similar wavelength. I told Governor Walz that I would have Tom Homan call him, and that what we are looking for are any and all criminals that they have in their possession. The governor very respectfully understood that. That is a critically important development. Moments ago.
And ICE is in a lot of different states right now. The only place you're really seeing this uprise is in Minnesota. A lot of the funding that would normally come for these kind of protests are now being cut off from U.S.A. and other normal funds, so they don't have as much money to fund it. This is typically one of their strongholds. This is where what happened to George Floyd happened. Mm-hmm. They took over the city. So there is organized resistance already in the state of Minnesota to propagate a color revolution. He needs to back down on this one, take the short-term loss for the long-term victory.
And then you added this story in, I think, too.
Well, there was another one before this. I hope you didn't take it out. The leftist?
Oh, I think that put it after this one. I don't know where it is.
Okay. Well, we don't need to go to that story because I specifically said we needed both stories together.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go into
no, let's just go into it. I'll talk about it a little bit, actually.
Okay, I can try to look for the other one if you want.
Okay, you can play this and look for the other one, and then I'll talk about it.
So Jaden Scott says, quote, breaking news, Jaden Scott announces a crusade Wednesday at MAHA, so the Minneapolis Autonomous Zone, similar to Chaz, and from the Summer of Love to thwart the rising insurgency and clear the roads for ICE, and there might be special guests there.
Yeah, and this is a right-wing reaction, which I don't think is the right reaction, and it's nothing good is going to come from this. And I was going to show a left-wing reaction, kind of showing a bad reaction on their side as well. But they're trying to rally people to kind of enforce the law. That's not their job, and things can really get out of control here. When they do, this will be used against the counter-protesters through the mainstream media and left-wing independent media. I would recommend not to go to this particular protest if you're in the area. This is much like what Jake Lang is doing. He's trying to intentionally get media attention to prop up his side with violence.
We have devolved from fifth-generation warfare. As of last night, we have found out that these men are fighting an insurgency. They've bitten the hands off DHS. They've attacked our Patriot Crusaders, Cam Higbee, and we still have been running counter intel. I'm here, boots on ground, in my bunker. I'm proud to announce that we have infiltrated the deepest levels of these signal chats and signal gate. Shout out to 0 Hour. Shout out to Cam Higbee. Guys, we are now fighting an insurgency to the highest levels of Minnesota state government. The lieutenant governor is complicit in this insurrection and in this insurgency. The Crusaders are going boots on ground tomorrow into the MAHA zone, Minneapolis Autonomous Zone, to restore law and order. And I promise it will not go down like it went with American hero Jake Lang. The Patriots are done. This is no longer fifth-generation warfare. This is no longer...
Okay, you can leave it there. And like I said, I don't think Jake Lang's strategy is appropriate. It just escalates tensions in Minnesota. You're winning with ICE agents in all the other states. You don't see these incidents popping up. You're winning at the airports with your incentive bonuses. Expand that program, start doing this more quietly, and just start reporting on the numbers. Don't escalate the violence. Jake Lang's protest didn't end well. This guy's protest is only going to build more conflict and maybe result in some kind of civil war in the state of Minnesota. There's no reason to escalate things here. The mainstream media is going to be all over counter protesters there if they do anything violent.
And on the other side, we continue to also see for example, I did find the story. Antifa member who urged his followers to arm themselves against federal agents is now soliciting large donations for his Freedom and Defense Fund, presumably to buy GUNS and ammo. He is currently handing out free gas masks to protesters in the streets of Minneapolis. And a lot more came out from the Signal chat leak that Cam Higbee did. We will talk about it in a little bit, but this was a little bit before that got exposed. So
yeah, and this gentleman has an Antifa tattoo literally on his neck. He's self-proclaimed Antifa. I'm sorry for the language we're going to play here, but the last clip we showed was kind of the wrong right-wing reaction, I believe, because it's only going to escalate tensions. This is by far even a worse reaction from the left, and he is on the ground. He is probably the most prominent protester on the ground right now.
My link to my Venmo is in my bio, okay? If you can't give via Venmo,
this is not the clip.
You can fucking,
No, just play it anyway.
Send me gifts now. I'm monetized.
This is completely the wrong clip, yes.
Well,
It's
you
a
had
Freedom
this
and
one bookmarked. That's why I added it.
Defense
I guess
Fund.
it's this one?
This is the one.
Okay.
Rage in me that I've had to... My name is Kyle. I'm Antifa, and there's so much rage in me that I've had to record this like 15 times trying to get the message out. They fucked up, okay? Go watch my other videos. Doesn't matter if you're not here and you're not caught up. You missed the fucking fight. But if you are, it's time to suit up. Boots on the ground. Nicollet and fucking 26th. My house is 4 blocks away. Anywhere between Franklin and Nicollet and 26th and Nicollet. Show up, ready to go. Okay, not talking about peaceful protests anymore. We're not talking about having polite conversations anymore. I am talking specifically to my fucking followers. This is everything I have fucking talked about, and this is exactly what I said was gonna happen. This is exactly what I said was gonna fucking come when we didn't fucking go and march on fucking Whipple with guns. Sorry, but welcome to America 2026, where Second Amendment is the only thing that's gonna keep you fucking protected from literal fucking Nazi gunmen that are killing innocent people in the street with impunity. This is not a fucking joke. There's nothing fun to chant about it. Get your fucking guns.
Okay,
and
you
stop.
can leave it there. And I just want to show a bad reaction from the left and a bad reaction from the right. And I think it's going to escalate all week. And coming up to this next weekend, if both groups are showing up at this protest, because right now it's just ICE and the left, if ICE can mellow things down and create a new strategy that's far more effective in their actual goal than making headlines in the mainstream media, and the right wing actually doesn't show up, I think tensions can cool down. If not, you may see a civil war in Minnesota.
We also see here from Michael McCarthy, quote, "All these people deserve better. Shame on the people who are manipulating the public to go out and impede law enforcement from doing their job. Every country has borders. If you enter illegally, then expect to be sent back." And I mean,
and I'm not saying for ICE not to do their job, just what's happening right now in Minnesota needs to be de-escalated. You still have 50 other states you can go to that you're currently in that's working. You have, I keep saying the same thing. You have this incentive program that is working. 1.5 to 2 million illegal immigrants have self-deported in that program. You've only deported a couple 100,000 with ICE. What's going to happen if the left and right come here and violence escalates? The government's response is going to be a police state. They're going to want to strip people of their Second Amendment, strip people of their freedom of speech. They're going to start coming after individuals' freedoms.
And let's actually watch the video.
I've watched multiple.
This is the only video I could find that was censored, so that's why I kind of grabbed this one.
So this is the incident that happened over the weekend that has sparked a lot of this anger that we're seeing, that sparked Tim Walz giving the initial comments that we saw at the beginning of the live, and also what has sparked Trump actually talking to Tim Walz, apparently.
Well, angles of this incident. This ICE agent goes up, he disarms the person they're detaining. The rest don't see that. The rest don't know that this man's been disarmed. When he then reaches for a gun, there's nothing there. The others don't know that, and they actually shoot him. Just a few seconds after he was disarmed. But your man walked away, and I don't think he said anything.
And pause it here. The agent right here, there's like 6 different angles from this. Actually, the gentleman they were trying to detain had a legal gun in a holster on his hip. The agent seen it. He took it out of the holster, took it. Reports are that he yelled gun and then ran away. As he ran away, the gun accidentally went off. That particular kind of gun has now been demonstrated by other YouTubers. It typically misfires and goes off just when you jostle it. So that's what caused the secondary officer to shoot the man in the back.
Gun in hand. Just walks away there. And at that very moment, it looks like your man reaches down to grab something. All these people here deserve better. That man should never be in a position where he thinks it's justified or it's the moral thing to do to go out and stand in the way of these ICE agents doing their job. That's because there's a lot of people on the left making it out as if it's the moral thing to do.
We can kind of leave it there. And the ICE agents shouldn't actually be doing that particular job. It should have been state police, but state police and the state of Minnesota is not cooperating with federal law enforcement, which is escalating the situation day by day. Yeah.
And then we also have this other angle that you added from Buzz Patterson. It says he clearly pulled his weapon. That is when it's...
They're going to slow it down here.
Seemingly accidentally discharged.
Yeah, this is when it was if you watch closely, you can see the muzzle flash. His finger wasn't actually on the trigger. That particular gun can go off very easily without actually pulling the trigger. One YouTuber actually had the gun go off 3 times without pulling the trigger. So that's why the gun went off, which caused the other agent to shoot. That's why this is an absolute tragic accident. The man shouldn't have been shot. The officer was in the wrong, but there was a threat because there was a gun in the situation.
Well, I don't know if you can say totally he was in the wrong. If he had justifiably thought that the lives of him and others were in danger, then he was justified to shoot, whether there was a gun present or not on his person.
Yeah, but
because it's in a matter of 3 seconds. I mean, we can watch as many slowed down videos as we want, but that you can even see there on the playhead, it says 3 seconds. So in 3 seconds, what is the reaction after you hear gun, see a man actually grabbing his belt or something,
okay,
and then hear a shot go off? Justifiably, in my opinion, he probably thought that him and the others were in danger because, especially, somebody had just yelled gun right before.
Well, you can kind of try to frame it kind of how you want, but I've watched the full video. We're not playing the full video because we don't want to be censored. The one cop that did do the majority of the shooting there had his gun out. He looked really twitchy. He looked like a younger officer. He was looking.
Well, actually, it came out now that most of those officers had been working for CBP, not ICE, for about 8 to 10 years each. So they were not new recruits, but they were doing the job of handling protesters that they were not meant to be doing because we needed state police or police in general to be there to do that job, to let them do it.
If you let me finish, he pulled his gun. He had the gun pulled. He was looking right at the gentleman's holster.
But he didn't know if there could have been another gun.
No, he's seen the gentleman, the other officer, pull the gun, and he yelled gun.
Because he was wearing sunglasses. So you can't actually see if he's noticing the gun actually leave the person's body.
We can disagree on this. I don't think it was a justified shoot. That being said,
the only threshold that they would have to cross to be able to not declare him guilty is if he was justifiably scared for his life or that of others.
Yeah, I've already said I don't think he should be found guilty of anything, but it should be a civil matter at this point, because even sometimes when cops do something wrong, it is justified in the heat of the moment based upon circumstances, then based on that gun actually misfiring when the other cop was going away. It was a bunch of tragic mistakes that happened there.
Yes, it was a series of unfortunate events, and I do agree with that.
Okay, Temple.
But, well, no, it's actually from Lemony Snicket. But I actually... I forgot what I was going to say. But this isn't, again, we've been seeing this for weeks. We've been seeing the mismanagement of Minneapolis, of Minnesota, by the two doofuses that are Tim Walz and Jacob Fry. They're clearly very scared of the fraud that's being discovered. FBI and other operations are still ongoing about the fraud issues and about the fraud matters. And both ICE and CBP were sent there to kind of go into the migration aspect of all of it, but there's still investigations ongoing and still more things being discovered. And they're also, if you look at it from a way wider angle, they're also probably very scared that they're losing a lot of potential voters in a lot of those, or at least bodies within their state that gives them access to seats within and congressional districts, etc. They're also scared for that. So clearly there's a lot of motivations going as to why they would want this to continue.
Yeah, you can, like I said, you need to pull out ICE at this point, take the loss because of the optics, but then you can kind of bring in a DOJ unit, a forensic auditing unit for the fraud that's going on in there. There were 70,000 IRS agents hired under Biden. They're still there. Bring them in with DOJ, create a new structure to kind of root out fraud and use Minnesota as the base to kind of create that structure. And then when you're done in Minnesota, bring it to California and other places. I think that's going to be a victory and a way to de-escalate the situation for now. Focus on states that you have cooperation and increase your incentive program. I think that's going to be the general win for Trump. He's going to have to take a short-term loss. I remember when this incident first happened, I was asking you about it, and you said, well, he's got to declare a state of emergency, bring in the National Guard.
They should have declared the insurrection.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that's just going to escalate it, and it's going to build up to exactly what the left wants. Just take the short-term loss and de-escalate it at this point.
I agree. But we've also seen and continue to see reports of protesters going after random people that they say they're on an ICE database, and now some of it has been uncovered as to what the tactics are for these protesters, how actually organized they are. And it is dangerous for regular people just walking around, and also journalists, for example, from O'Keefe Media Group. And this is James O'Keefe, says, quote, Minneapolis mob threatens to end O'Keefe. Ice bottles thrown, followed an OMG team under attack. And this should, something should be done about the behavior of the protesters as well, to understand that in civil society, you cannot conduct yourself like this, especially against other law-abiding American citizens and journalists specifically.
Most of these aren't regular protesters, and maybe I'm kind of in the know because they follow a lot of politics and a lot of color revolutions around the world. This has all the fingerprints of a color revolution from the Democratic Party itself. They want to create something like this in the United States. They want this to grow to other cities. That was the plan under the No Kings protest. A lot of their funding has been taken away, so they can't make it happen the way they wanted to earlier in the summertime.
And that's the thing, you can't allow this to continue to happen and just be, we don't want to rise tensions even more, so let's just let them continue doing what they're doing.
What's the goal?
Of who? The administration or the protesters?
You can go to the two shot.
Okay. Of the administration or of the protesters?
What's the goal of having ICE there?
To take away the criminals that Tim Walz won't
to deport illegal aliens that are criminals.
Yes,
they're not successfully doing that based upon the numbers, but their incentive program is. So increase the incentive program.
Yes, but the incentive program isn't available for those that have criminal offenses under their record.
Expand it.
So you're paying criminals to leave.
It's the easiest way to get it done without having any optics like this, which is going on, which is going to
be completely. You would lose all of the people that actually voted for you to deport the actual criminals.
I don't think you would.
If the story comes out that you're paying criminals to leave the U.S. and you're not even arresting them or anything, you're just letting them walk to an airport and leave.
You're absolutely 100% wrong, because that program already exists
for non-criminal illegal aliens. Yes.
Yeah. They would be in mass support if they're going to have criminals self-deport. The point of having a criminal is to put them in jail or get them out of society. By putting them in another country, you're doing exactly that.
The problem is Tim Walz isn't letting them even go into the jails to go get those illegal aliens that already are in jail.
Yeah.
So starting with that, how would they self-deport and they get money? I don't think that would be if you're American, let me know if that would be an actual policy that you would agree with, of giving money to illegal aliens that already have a criminal warrant and criminal records under them to leave.
Do you know how much it costs per day to house a criminal?
Yeah, a lot.
So
that's why you should let ICE go into the prisons to go get those criminals.
But not all of them.
And then they deport them.
Not all of them are in prisons.
No, but what I'm saying is Tim Walz isn't even letting ICE go into the prisons, let alone people go find them, those that haven't been arrested
yet. But Gavin Newsom is. So some blue states are already cooperating because they realize there's an election.
Yes.
So they let ICE into, most blue states are letting ICE into jails to deport illegal aliens.
Yes.
What I'm saying is the legal aliens that are out on the street, give them an incentive bonus to leave the country. It's going to be cheaper.
But what I'm asking is those that have criminal records and criminal warrants as well, or just those that entered illegally, which is already a crime. But
everybody. You want them out? The easiest way to get them out without putting on a show on national TV and have something go wrong is to simply give incentive bonuses.
But a lot of them have already. They were all informed about this program months ago, and a lot of them did use it. But then why are those that haven't done it yet left?
1.5 to 2 million illegal aliens have used that program. That is a massive success.
Yes.
And it used to only be $1,000. Then it went up to $2,500 for Christmas. I say you just increase it even more, and then you give a secondary incentive bonus if somebody reports the individual and that individual actually leaves the country.
Okay. Can we go back to the story that we were going
Well, I'm trying to give a solution other than bring in the National Guard here.
Well, they brought in the National Guard and they're helping the protesters. Tim Walz did. He says, my team and I are in downtown. This was a few days ago. In downtown Minneapolis right now, we still have undercover reporters inside the mob. I was at the scene of the shooting this morning and barely made it out alive. Hundreds surrounded us. They were throwing ice bottles, ripping off the bulletproof vests. They even followed us all the way back to the hotel. And we know that a lot of these ICE watch groups are also going after reporters, especially if they know that they're reporters that fall more on the right.
Well, and James O'Keefe just happened to be there. He was actually going to do something on a corporate undercover sting. But after the shooting happened, he decided to go out there. He went to a suburban neighborhood, and even in a suburban neighborhood, they were extremely organized and kind of went after him.
This is James O'Keefe in downtown Minneapolis. We have a team of undercover reporters still inside the mob. I was at the scene of the shooting covering it this morning, and basically we barely got out of there alive. There were a few hundred that surrounded us, started throwing ice bottles at us. A few hit us, hit our vehicle. They were starting to rip off my bulletproof vest, so we got out of there. We were followed, we were tailed, and here we are right now. We just got this message, and it says, we know that you're in Minneapolis. You're with O'Keefe and his crew of Nazis. You're in a white Ford license plate. They actually wrote the license plate down from Florida. You have 1 hour to leave or you're dead. You have 1 hour to leave or you're dead. We are going to produce our footage, gathering everything we've got from this weekend. We're going to put our report together along with the hidden camera footage that we have. We still have undercover people in the field. Please pray for my team's safety. This is worse than anything I could have possibly imagined. I have security with me, former Marine, and he said that it was worse than overseas, and it was certainly anything worse than I've seen in the cartel at the border. We're going to contact law enforcement, DHS, and the FBI, and we're going to try to get out of here safely.
And that's good. And there are a lot of whistleblowers coming out, people that used to be on the left that actually used to help organize these protests and these color revolution style incidents that are happening, not just in the United States, but they actually organize them overseas as well. There is a lot of money coming into Minnesota. They want this to be the incident. It's up to Trump right now to take the short-term loss for the long-term game and re-strategize, come up with a better strategy. The point is to get rid of illegals, not to make headline news every night for shooting protesters, which moderates aren't going to like. His base might like it, but the moderate will literally vote against him for it.
But we are seeing a very different response this time around in Minnesota than we did back when the George Floyd era was happening. And Robbie Starbuck, who follows this kind of stuff with commerce and businesses, and he was reporting a lot of the DEI stuff going on, now says this is an amazing difference in response from the George Floyd era. These companies are right that the local and state government need to work with the Trump administration to end this lunacy. State and local government are creating dangerous situations by encouraging dangerous behavior. And the letter is very different from all the black squares that a lot of these same companies posted during the George Floyd era. And just quickly, it says here at the second paragraph, with yesterday's tragic news, we are calling for an immediate de-escalation of tensions and for state, local, and federal officials to work together to find real solutions. We have been working for generations to build a strong and vibrant state here in Minnesota, and will do so in the months and years ahead with equal and even greater commitment. In this difficult moment for our community, we call for peace and focused cooperation among local, state, and federal leaders to achieve a swift and durable solution that enables families, businesses, our employees, and communities across Minnesota to resume work and to build a bright and prosperous future. And we see there, pretty big, in my opinion, companies that, again, we saw them put Target, Best Buy, we saw them put the black squares during the George Floyd era and fully support the protest and fully support even their employees going out to protest. But now they're seeming to say, somebody please do something, and not being fully on the side of the left as we had seen for years now.
We do political commentary. What do you think the strategy is from both sides here? Well, I think the strategy, if Trump continues to escalate this, which I'm calling for de-escalation at this point, and doing a larger strategy so you get your actual goal without making headline news, I think Trump's strategy, if he continues to escalate, is he wants the protesters to burn down the city, because if they do, when that election comes up in the midterms, they're going to elect a Republican. But I don't think you should escalate to the point where you're going to have protesters burn down the city.
No.
And
we've seen the results of that.
Yeah, and what the left wants here is a continued escalation where people are going to die in the streets. Because
they want martyrs.
Because that's not only going to turn the Minnesota election against them, that's going to help them win the entire midterms. And if they win the entire midterms, you can guarantee they're going to impeach Trump at that point. So
I don't know why you're going against me. I said the exact same thing you said.
Well, over the last few days, you keep calling for escalation, I've been calling for de-escalation.
I have not been calling for escalation. I said for the longest time now, a lot of other commentators and people within the same Trump administration have been saying either call for the Insurrection Act or do something about what's happening, but de-escalate, stop moving forward and do something.
If you call
for Tim Walz to actually stop it. Now, finally, Tim Walz seems to be doing it only after the Signal chats came out, and he knew that a lot of his staffers were involved with all the protests, and as well as donations that were going from him and a lot of people within the Democratic Party, and now he's deciding to talk to Trump. So something was done, luckily. Unfortunately, it had to be done by ex-users and Cam Higbee, independent journalist, instead of the FBI and the federal agencies that have the capacity to look into all of this and de-escalate it way a long time ago and make arrests of the actual people that are inciting all of this and involved in the fraud as well at the same time.
I don't think you understand what happened here. Tim Walz called for an escalation by bringing the National Guard, which he controls. Donald Trump can still call the Insurrection Act and bring in the federal military here, and that would be a major escalation, which I don't think you need at this point. If you just take law enforcement off the street, what are the protesters going to do at that point?
They'll continue. We saw what happened during the George Floyd.
If they continue to protest and have these Chaz chop zones, which they've already created one there, it's going to turn the voters against them. So but
at the same time, you're still putting lives at risk, be they protesters or ICE officers. Or people that look like ICE, because we've seen protesters follow for hours people that they claim are ICE and saying shame, shame, when they're just either software developers or they're on vacation or independent or non-independent journalists. For hours, they've been following them, trying to target them. No. So even if the police leave, they will continue to try and find them, and they'll be starting to mistake actual citizens and regular citizens for law enforcement and trying to do actions against them.
This is a political chess match is what's going on here, and there's the right and the left. What I'm saying is Donald Trump takes out all ICE officers, takes out all military, therefore it's all landing on Tim Walz's head, Tim Walz's military, Tim Walz's police. Nothing falls back on Trump at that point, and then he can focus on deporting illegals from other places, and he can also bring in, like I said, DOJ or the IRS to focus on.
But my question there is, would that be popular with the voters that already voted for the deportations initially, that got Trump elected in the first place? Like what I'm saying is, optically, would that look good?
Optically, they're not deporting anybody.
I know, but
you're killing protesters in the street, so maybe it's best to just back down and take the loss in the short term and start actually telling people how many people you're deporting that are willingly going. 1.5 to 2 million illegals have left willingly.
And I am saying, like, make that program better known. You continue to use that program. But I don't know if fully saying we're leaving Minnesota now, kind of giving a win to the left, would reflect, if there would be enough time for that to reflect positively on the administration right before, the midterms are this same year.
You'll take a short-term loss, but if there's more incidents in the street and something more tragic where you can't excuse it, it's going to be a guaranteed loss in the midterms. So it's better to take the short-term loss and get control of the optics rather than try to get a small victory at the risk of losing everything.
But speaking of Tim Walz, and Tim Walz bringing in the National Guard, earlier this week, starting the weekend, Gunther Eagleman says the Minnesota National Guard has confirmed we are mobilizing as we talk at this time under Tim Walz's command.
Yeah. So the question is, what's the National Guard doing right now? So we have been on state active duty for over a week. So we've had soldiers prepared in the metro area to respond in a much rapid manner than if they were not mobilized. So we have a request from the Hennepin County Sheriff to support them, and that is to help them free up additional resources for other work that they need to do. And we have started coordinating with them this morning on that. And that first area of support will be assisting them with their requirement to provide security to the Whipple building. So we'll be helping them there. And then we are in parallel planning with other organizations within the state of Minnesota, to include the State Patrol, the Minnesota DNR, and other local agencies to render assistance if requested.
Did you say how many are deployed?
I would say that the number that we have is adequate for the request that we have right now. And I will also tell you that we are bringing more resources that will be able to respond in a timely manner that are not fully mobilized yet, but we are mobilizing more soldiers as we talk at this time. I'd like not to get into specific numbers for an operational security standpoint, but right now we have all the resources to meet the requests that we have.
I would note on this one, too, that we'll be billing the federal government for the cost of the National Guard because they are incurring the costs that are falling on us by their reckless actions. Yes, sir.
You alluded to this earlier, but are you projecting the narrative that has been presented by federal officials that this man, this 37-year-old, is a global threat?
By their reckless actions.
And Tim Walz has the National Guard out there. He has police activated. If Trump can back off of this particular one, it's all going to land on his head. And if he can't get control of the city, which there's enough people out there, he may not get control of the city. It's going to land on his head now.
Maybe, but again, I don't know optically how popular that would be with people that already voted for Trump to continue the deportations, especially after the fraud has been revealed in Minnesota.
You're not going to win every single battle. This is politics. Every single day, Trump takes losses and he gets wins. This is a particular case where the mainstream media is picking up on this and putting all these people that are dying in the street, whether they're justified or not. Whether it's been 3, whether it's
the third one?
Whether it's justified or not, then yeah.
Who's the third person that died?
You have to look it up.
Okay. But let's go to Bannon, who says that this is a color revolution. He says they don't want basic life to go on frictionless. If you're going to remove illegal alien invaders, they'll make you pay an incredibly high price. This is how much they hate this country. They defend the invaders into this country.
Their theory of the case is quite simple. This is a color revolution. They don't want basic life to go on frictionless. They're going to say, okay, if you're going to get illegal alien invaders out of your country, we're not going to let you do that unless you pay an incredibly high price. This is how much they hate this country.
That's the third guy that
They
died.
are defending the invaders into this country. First off, they're the ones that allowed them to invade. Let's be blunt, the NGOs and all these progressives. Number 2, they're going to defend that and hope that you blink and stand down. Their theory of the case is quite simple.
And I mean, that has been, and again, it's part of the guys' theory that this is and starting to look like a color revolution and maybe wanting to expand it further out, of course, via the Democrats. And they have a lot of reasons to want to do this. Number 1, losing voters. Number 2, losing their whole position or part of their empathy position as well. But
yeah,
you go.
No, that was it.
Okay, because you put that clip in there. That's why.
I can watch the clip. I was trying to get the 3 people that died.
Well, there was one person shot, but he didn't die. I don't think. An illegal alien.
As far as the reports coming out was 3 people have died by the hands of ICE so far. So
okay, but let's also remember during the Obama administration, 50 people died under ICE, and that was never reported. There were no protests. There was nobody crying in the streets. So.
And I'm not siding with the left here. I'm just saying optically it doesn't look good, even if you can justify every shooting. The last shooting was the hardest one to justify, and it's really a tragic accident, but you don't want this to continue to happen. As the bodies pile up, public sentiment is going to turn against you at some point. I think it already has started to turn against him outside of his base. And I mean, I watch a lot of international news, Canada, Europe. I mean, the optics don't look good.
Okay. Moving on, as we were talking about a bit earlier, Marian Alfal says protesters build a database to dox violent ICE agents. Already, leaks hit 4,500 plus agents leaked. 4,500 plus agents info after the Renee Good mess. Noam and Pam Bondi both vow to hammer down on the leakers, and this is a serious and dangerous game, not only putting officers at risk, but their families too, and that is also important. These are all ICE officers. They built a database.
Is that 1.25 speed?
Yes. So basically, this is part of the tactics that they have been using to dox and go follow ICE agents. Also, I mean, making massive networks with vehicles they believe are ICE, not even actually confirmed ICE. But this is what I'm saying with letting them just go on with this and no punishment is dangerous. Again, not only for the officers themselves, some of them who haven't been involved in a shooting or in the ending of an American, 2 of them or 3 of them, but also the families of the agents if they go back home or when they go back home. And
in order for the left to get a color revolution, they need resistance. So the only way the left wins here is if they get a continued resistance. We see right-wing protesters mounted up, ready to go out there this next weekend. We have ICE agents possibly going to be backed up by the federal military. This would result in a basic, everything you need for a color revolution. I watched this happen in so many other countries. If you can take away the resistance temporarily and win your goal in the other 50 states, you're going to come out ahead here. You want to take away fertile ground for a color revolution. Basically, they're trying to finance that right now.
Mm-hmm. And part of the reason why we know this is being financed by higher ups is Cam Higby actually leaked and infiltrated Signal group chats all over Minnesota. Cam Higby says, I have infiltrated organizational Signal groups all around Minneapolis with the sole intention of tracking down federal agents and impeding, assaulting, and obstructing them. Buckle up, all will be revealed. Each area of the city has a Signal or several Signal chats. Let's start with a screen recording of the members of the South Side group to start, and there is no audio here, but like that's all the people that are just in this one chat. And those are, a lot of them, you're using their actual real names, which is, in my opinion, pretty dumb.
Well, and I'll also say one more thing here. I understand the gentleman was armed, but it was a legal firearm. There are tons of conservatives saying it should be illegal to have a firearm at a protest, which is just crazy. You're going to limit your Second Amendment rights.
But I do like the distinction, for example, that Steven Crowder has done with the whole debacle of should you bring a gun to a protest? Yes, it's legal and constitutional for you to bring a gun to a protest. It is not legal or constitutional for you to block ICE enforcement or try to assault ICE enforcement agents or operations as they're ongoing.
I agree.
And then you escalate, unfortunately, in whatever event or situation you're in, and this has been taught, but I read a bunch of gun instructors say this, especially if you're doing concealed carry, it is taught that anytime a gun enters the chat, to say it that way, or anytime a gun is involved in an interaction, a negative, especially interaction with police, then that escalates the situation to an armed situation. And of course, the police, the only justification they need is if they believe their life to be in danger.
Yeah, but we all seen.
So yes, you can take guns to a protest, but also don't be stupid.
Yeah,
essentially.
We seen the video. There was 2 women being pepper sprayed, so he jumped in.
They were assaulting and they were stopping.
At no point did he pull his weapon. He had it holstered the entire time.
But it did seem he was reaching for it after it was gone. But the other officer didn't know it was gone.
The other officer is the one that fired the weapon.
Yes, the one that had taken it away, but not and yelled gun. But then the officer that actually ended up shooting him didn't see that. He saw that guy reaching for something in his back. He heard gun, then he heard the actual gun.
I understand that it's a tragic situation, but what I'm saying there is you don't take away people's Second Amendment rights.
No, I'm not saying take it away. I'm saying don't be stupid and understand what you're doing by carrying a concealed weapon into a protest and then trying to interact or assault ICE officers.
Okay, maybe I'm just too deep into politics because when conservatives start calling for people's gun rights to be taken away,
saying don't take.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying conservatives in general right now. There's a sentiment that we should limit the Second Amendment. They're going to bring that into Congress, and the left is definitely going to vote on any gun restrictions. And now right-wing conservatives have an excuse to vote for taking away Second Amendment.
Funnily enough, that actual bill had already been proposed in Minnesota, but it hadn't passed. But it was sitting essentially on the table. But back to the Signal chats. From Cam Higby, quote, I have been undercover inside the groups for days. You'll notice emojis next to people's names. Here's a key for what those emojis mean. The highlighted positions are the most crucial. Most are self-explanatory. Mobile patrols spend their entire shift, so they have shifts and everything, searching for suspicious vehicles. And this could be any kind of vehicle of any citizen that's not ICE, and some of them that are. When they find one, they send it to the group so that plate checkers can compare with their database that they got, we'll see how, and see if it's a known federal vehicle or if the patrol can make confirmations so that the database can be updated. Dispatch runs a maxed out call all day telling protesters where ICE has been spotted and how they can best be impeded. So this is how they're getting the locations. This is how they're actually coordinating. And again, I will agree with you that this is very obviously going far beyond just protesting and people that are upset because ICE are doing enforcement, but something that is a lot more better planned than I think a lot of people are looking at.
Better planned. This is a well-organized, well-funded color revolution they're trying to get to take root in the United States. The best way to fight against this is just to back down, let Tim Walz let it all fall on his head because he's already activated the National Guard. If he can't get control of the city, it lands on him.
And interestingly, speaking of, DC Drano says, what a coincidence that Tim Walz called President Trump to work together on the riots only after Signal Gate chats were exposed. The rope is tightening on the Minnesota fraud. And there are multiple aspects as to why Tim Walz might want to stop or not stop everything that's being done and exposed as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game being played on both sides. I don't like how the chessboard's kind of set up right now. So I would say focus on the other 50 states and take the short-term loss. I keep repeating myself, but that's how I feel about the situation. I feel like you have very little to gain if you're Trump by escalating federal forces there.
And in a bit, we will see what people think of that.
Well, and I will say this: I'm not saying don't go arrest, don't use ICE agents in all the other states. Do exactly that. But
and they have been doing.
But the media optic here is not turning out in your favor right now. But
as the federal government, do you back down because the media, in a lot of ways, are actually lying about what you're doing?
No, what you say if you're President Trump is the National Guard has been activated by Tim Walz. We'll see if he can control the situation. If not, I can come back in. And then if Tim Walz can't control the situation, then he can bring the federal military in.
Continuing with the signal chat gate from Benny Johnson, finally Kash Patel shows up and is not hanging out with his girlfriend. FBI Director Kash Patel confirms full investigations are active into the left-wing terrorist signal chats in Minnesota, and they should be worried. Says, we are investigating. As soon as Higbee put that post out, I opened an investigation on it. And this is, again, where I say, why do you have to wait until independent journalists go do this if you already know there is some sort of operations happening? Why did you have to wait until Cam Higbee to expose it to actually mobilize, unless you were already doing it, and now have to come out and say that you will do something about it?
Because the independent media is doing Kash Patel's job for him. Originally with the Somali fraud, it was only when the independent media went viral, he's like, oh shit, we got to get in there.
Well, to be fair, FBI was already conducting investigations, but not known to the public.
Okay.
I don't want to defend Kash, but.
Well, I've watched the statement. Have you watched the statement? It's absolutely a retarded statement. He's saying people don't have the Second Amendment rights. I mean.
Okay, so this is breaking news. So you and the FBI and perhaps other intelligence agencies are fully aware of this coordinated effort to attack federal law enforcement, to impede them and potentially insurrect. And so there is now an open investigation into these chats and into this coordinated network.
Yeah,
some of them are fleeing. Some of them are very scared now. You can see their chats. They're very, very worried now that they have been exposed.
Well, they should be. If they broke the law, you should be worried. It's that simple. If you didn't break the law, there's really nothing to worry about on that front. And so, we're going to continue, as I've said from day one, we will protect law enforcement. We will make sure they have the security and safety to do their jobs. We will also ensure that civilians have the ultimate protection of the First and Second Amendment. But it is my job to adjudicate the difference when there is a breaking of federal statute or state law in the furtherance of a crime or violence against law enforcement officers. And that's when we step in.
Oh, that's a different statement. So I put a Kash Patel statement. Did you take that out of here?
No.
Okay.
I think it's after this one.
Okay. Because that one was out. I think
you put that one in the
a lot of these conservative politicians and people that are holding high ranks came out really quickly, gave extremely bad statements talking about take the Second Amendment away and a bunch of other bullshit, and then they kind of walked it back. And that was Kash Patel walking it back. Let's see the original statement now.
Oh, I don't know where it is. I'd have to get to it.
So you did delete it?
I didn't delete it. It's just under the U.S. section.
No, I didn't put it under the U.S. section. I guarantee you I put it.
Because that's the only Kash Patel one I have.
I put it in the Minnesota section.
Okay, do you want me to go look for it?
No, because you won't be able to find it without being distracted. Kash Patel was saying, never mind. Let's just move on.
Well, I want to continue with the Signalgate because a lot of things, important things.
Oh my God, how many Signalgate stories did you put in here?
Well, because this is one of the biggest stories because there's so many things that came out and will continue to come out, both about financing, about the organization, and about how to actually maybe do something about these protest groups, not just in Minnesota, but nation, even worldwide, because a lot of things came out. From Right Angle News says at least 2 Democrat Minnesota state officials and a campaign advisor to Tim Walz, Amanda Kohler, have been identified as admins and dispatchers in the now leaked Signal group chat that used to stalk and impede federal immigration operations in the state. And this goes further to the point of this might be a civil war because it is the government itself and people within Tim Walz's government themselves that are aiding and abetting essentially and helping and being in the chats with the protesters that are, causing havoc within their own state. So they're going against their own mandate as elected officials, at least Tim Walz is.
Well, yeah, the left has lost against Trump, especially on a global basis, and they're losing the states. They have 2 opportunities. One is the midterms. If they can win the midterms and get a majority vote in the House and in the Senate, they can then impeach Trump to get rid of him. The second opportunity is in 2028 with Gavin Newsom. So they're going to put everything they have in those two buckets. The first bucket, they're going to do the midterms because they want to impeach Trump. That's why they're going to put everything they have into this. This is why the Europeans are going to put everything they have into it, and the Canadians. I mean, you're seeing a ton of Canadian money flow into these Minnesota protests. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is international interference. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chinese were flowing money into Canada to then flow it into these Minnesota protests.
Yes, but also right before we started almost, we got the news or potential news, alleged news that Commander Greg Bovino had been either fired or relieved of duty as Commander-at-Large of the U.S. Border Patrol. This was from Nick Sorter, and it has been reported that Nick Sorter was the first one to break this. He says this is BS. Trump must reverse this now. Bovino put his life on the line every single day for pushing mass deportations across the country, going head-to-head with leftists and reminding them who's boss.
Yeah, and it's unconfirmed, just so we do say that.
I do have that.
It's unconfirmed if he's either fired or he's just been relieved and been given another position with ICE in another state, which I think that's more likely the case. I think a lot of content creators are putting fired on the headlines, and so is the news, because it makes much bigger headlines and much more clicks.
Yes, but if you have seen a lot of so this is Greg Bovino. If you didn't know, do you want to watch the video? Or?
Well, I'll talk about it. Greg Bovino, I like him because I'm a conservative and I am for law and order. That being said, I don't think he's best in the position right now because it is in Minnesota and all eyes of the world are on there. The clip you're about to show shows him in a good light. I've been watching him over the past 2 weeks, and he's been on camera just being a bit of a bully. It's not going to come off to the moderates very well. Somebody in his position should kind of stay behind the scenes more.
And I did.
Mainly how I view this thing going on in Minnesota. I mean, there's 50 states. There's not a peep of any of these other states, and they're just deporting people. They're winning in all these other states. In this particular state, the media and how the media is portraying this is going to make a big impact.
And that's what's going to happen. Let's hear that. I'll say it once more.
It's going to have a lot of music on it.
Going on. Welcome here. Check yourself.
Essentially him just responding to it doing his job.
Well, he's on the ground every day, and there's cell phones everywhere, and there's just been so many clips of him that just don't look good. In this particular case, because there's so much media on the ground, he might be better served in another state where there's not so much media.
But we also do see, after the call that Trump had with Tim Walz and the news about Bovino, Tim Pool, for example, saying the left is celebrating Trump's surrender already. Trump is backing down. Take a bow, Minnesota. So this was an X from a leftist account. And that is when that Truth Social came out about Trump saying that he talked and that they're going to, try to reach some sort of agreement.
There's nothing wrong with de-escalating and taking a loss. Trump's taken plenty of loss. They have the whole acronym TACO, Trump always loses. I don't think that's the case. I think he wins more than he loses. In this particular case, it's going to be best to back down, because if you look going forward, what could happen with a color revolution, you don't want to throw all the ingredients in there. If Trump de-escalates and put this on Walz, he wins. In the end, he wins. Maybe not in the short term, and I understand his base will turn against him in the short term, but a lot of his base is already turned against him. I mean, I've stuck with him. I still like what he's doing. In this particular case, I think he's going to be smart enough to actually back down.
And about Bovino, a bit earlier, though, too, Eric Doherty says, Carolyn Levitt just confirmed that Commander Greg Bovino will continue storming across the country with border agents in rounding up illegals, while Tom Homan becomes the point man in Minnesota. And that is like the main big guy.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people don't like Tom Homan because he does a lot of interviews where he's very bombastic. I like it. It plays to the base, but he's very smart. He was actually the one that originally told Trump, don't go into Minnesota, don't escalate the situation, just focus on the other states and focus where we have cooperation, focus on the states that are going to let us into jails. We have enough work to do for ourselves without being in the media eye. So Homan ultimately, I kind of have his strategy more. I say you can win without having to be in the streets and in the media here.
And I also found that Kash Patel clip from
earlier.
You did? Do you want it?
Yeah, let's play it if we got it. But this is the sentiment of a lot of conservative commentators, a lot of conservatives, and the head of the FBI. I mean, if this starts going into Congress and the Senate and they start to vote to restrict Second Amendment rights, I don't like it. It's the same idea why I don't like voter ID coming in on the back of, oh, we need to protect elections and we need to get rid of illegal immigrants. You can do that without bringing in a digital ID. Don't strip me of my freedoms because you can't do your job.
But as Secretary Noem said, no one who wants to be peaceful shows up at a protest with a firearm that is loaded with 2 full magazines. That is not a peaceful protest, and you do not get law enforcement. You do that anywhere, this FBI is going to be leading the charge to arrest those.
But how was he threatening Border Patrol? You've collected the evidence, you said, right? You have the handgun in your possession?
That's right.
And how was he using that handgun in terms of threatening Border Patrol? What was the threat? He had his camera, right? He was filming it.
That's something that I will let the DHS and the prosecutors, because they are the ones investigating that case. I don't want to stylize that evidence, but I trust the men and women on the ground who are trained professionals to only use it when it's absolutely necessary. And I trust Secretary Noem's leadership and DHS and HSI to do the right thing, as they've always done in these scenarios. As Christy said, you cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want.
That's kind of pushing back there. I think he was on Fox News and he could give this line and there was going to be no pushback. When it comes to the Second Amendment, when it comes to the First Amendment, I understand I don't like the left any more than a lot of other people, especially with these type of protests. That being said, unless you want your Second Amendment and your First Amendment gone, if Gavin Newsom gets into office, you're going to want to kind of respect theirs at this point.
And again, they already, in Minnesota, were trying to pass a bill that you couldn't bring guns to protests. The left was, the Democrats were. And also, let's remember Kyle Rittenhouse, for example. I mean, he ended up being found not guilty of that, but he also had a firearm during and in Minnesota as well.
Well, and he was completely justified in having that firearm. I said that from the beginning. I completely supported Kyle there. This gentleman had a firearm as well. It was holstered, and the officer took it away. The issue was it misfired in the officer's hand. That's what made this a tragic situation.
But again, let's also not forget that him and the protesters around him were escalating tensions themselves with ICE, because there's a lot of the clips that have been cut just as, for example, the ICE officer pepper sprays one lady and then he tries to go save her. But before that, they were standing in the middle of the street and going towards the ICE agents that were saying, move out of the way, move out of the way. And they weren't moving out of the way, hence got pepper sprayed because they started advancing towards the ICE officers or CBP officers. Not to defend either side, but just there's a lot of context missing from a lot of the clips that most people have been seeing on social media.
Yeah, I mean, I'll justify it when it's justifiable. I mean, it doesn't look good in any way, shape, or form. It was 2 women against a bunch of ICE agents, and they got sprayed multiple times. He came in to kind of stand between them. He got sprayed twice. There were 6 agents on him. They had his gun. It was a legal gun. I mean, it doesn't look good.
No.
The framing of the situation, because he had a gun, even if it's a legal gun, allows officers to kind of frame it a little bit better than it normally would. At this point, this is a good incident to tell the Trump administration it's time to stand down in this particular case.
But let's see.
No, when I say stand down, just in that state, not in other states.
Let's see, maybe another reason why in Minnesota they might be very scared about the whole ICE and CBP being in this state. Eric Doherty says, quote, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison erupts in panic after the Trump DOJ asks for his state's voter rolls to purge illegal aliens and other ineligibles. Ineligibles? There we go. It's about voter information, and that's why we're fighting it. He admitted it. That's why they're so frantic right now. ICE and CBP are rounding up their voters. AG Pam Bondi's list of demands include handing over the rolls so they can be cleaned.
The judge seemed to focus on a couple of things. Pam Bondi's letter, and also the president's social media post about a day of retribution. She appeared, especially with the Pam Bondi letter, she appeared critical. Is that the way you saw it? And do you think those 2 things are helping your case?
Let me just say, I think that the judge is incredibly bright and is focusing on the critical issues. I'm not sure what to conclude or based on her questions, but it appeared to me, and I got the sense that she understood the issues very well. And I'll just say on my own behalf that the Pam Bondi letter it kind of reveals what this is all about. This is not about fraud, and it's not even about immigration, and it's certainly not about law enforcement. It's about handing over documents of the state of Minnesota, private information, including voting information, to the federal government. That's what this is about, and that's why we're fighting it.
Do you mind?
Yeah, and in these states where you don't need a voter ID, they are going to start panicking. And this is why I'm saying you don't need necessarily ICE agents in the front lines where protesters can start to cause the color revolution or start burning down the city. You can bring in Doge, you can bring in the IRS, you can bring in forensic audits that are going to go after voter rolls, stuff like this. You can do things behind the scenes that are going to be much, much more effective than making the mainstream news at night for taking on protesters.
And then getting people like the now Crypt Keeper, apparently actress Olivia Wilde, saying dumb, stupid things.
And she does not look good. There was a couple clips, and she looked better in this clip than she did the other one, surprisingly.
It's that buccal fat removal. From Breitbart News says actress, filmmaker Olivia Wilde saying people are being murdered, cast ICE out and delegitimize this unbelievably criminal organization.
And there was about 30 different clips from 30 different celebrities. I just picked her as the representation of that, but I'm sure if you're on X, you're going to see every single celebrity wearing the ICE pin saying, "Get ICE out. This is a tragedy." This is obviously organized at this point.
The world is hurting right now, and this country is hurting, and it's appalling. I'm appalled. I'm sickened. And we can't go another day just sort of accepting this as our new norm. It's outrageous. People are being murdered. And I don't want to normalize seeing people being murdered on the internet, on film. It's hideous. And so if we can do anything out here to support the movement to cast ICE out, to delegitimize this unbelievably criminal organization, then that's what we should be doing. So I'm proud of where they've been.
And it's great to see people with your platform to speak out against that kind of stuff, right? That you and so many great creatives here are doing.
Well, I think so many Americans are. I mean, you see the marches happening around the country. Americans are speaking up in huge numbers, and it's dangerous to be a protester now, and people are still going out into the streets, which is incredibly inspiring. The world is...
Yeah, it's dangerous to be a protester because protesters are trying to escalate this thing. They realize every time somebody loses their life, they're winning the battle in the media's eyes. There were so many clips I didn't pick up today about left-wing protesters saying, "I'm talking to my family, I'm getting everything in order, so if something happens to me when I make something happen at the protest, that everybody's kind of prepared."
And that's the thing. That's the mentality they're going in with. And again, the goal of the revolution is not a goal. The revolution itself is the goal for most of these people, especially Marxist, communist-aligned, insane people. And a reminder just quickly that yes, people are being murdered, and those are all the people that have been ended, and there's many more, by criminal illegal aliens over the past few years. So.
Yeah, so I mean, when the left keeps wanting to talk about the 3 losses of life, yes, those are tragic. Some of them were justified over the last few days. The most recent one, I don't think was. That being said, there's been dozens and dozens of people that lost their hands to people that shouldn't have been in the country in the first place. And on top of that, there's been rapes as well as all kinds of other crimes outside of people losing their lives. Mm-hmm. So let's not forget those people. Let's not forget why we're actually trying to get rid of illegal immigrants within the country. And there's a legal way to come into the country. The Trump administration is offering $2,600 and a plane ticket anywhere in the world, as well as an opportunity to come back into the country the right way.
And most notably Laken Riley and Jolson and Gary, but also all of those other people as well. But now we're done with this section, so I can go read the
we have
chat.
Comments. Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do have quite a bit, both here and on
I'm
RUMBLE.
interested. I took...
We don't have that many on YouTube, but we do have on RUMBLE, so I'll...
Because I know we're a conservative station. I have a bit of a different opinion here because I want to see the situation de-escalated because I don't think the optics are good right now, but...
Non says, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. Also says about that crazy Antifa guy, psychopath bootlicker and organizer too, which is more worrying. Non also says, what kind of gun are we talking about? I forget the name.
I was going to put a picture of it, but YouTube doesn't like when we flash things on the screen all the time.
But if you look up on X, you can pretty much find it. I don't remember the make and model.
There's a gentleman on YouTube though that literally holds the exact same firearm up in front of him. He has a shooting range in his house, and he's able to tap on the top of the gun and make it fire without pulling the trigger. He does it 3 times in a row.
At the same time, why would you bring that kind of misfiring gun to? I mean, don't you shoot yourself in the butt?
He might have not known. So
Because there's lawsuits about that gun already. Rafa says, not so many comments today. You're not speaking about Candace enough. There's not much else to say.
The Candace episode blew up last week. Maybe we'll talk.
And it's sad that I mean, you can get audience captured by that, and I'm trying not to do that. But it is sad that is so. People are so interested in that and not in other things.
Yeah, there's a couple new things that came up. I might talk about it a little bit on Friday because the Friday show's usually a little bit less people. So.
And Non says, Bovino is a smug, unhappy little man, and he treats people like idiots.
Yeah, I agree with that. And especially when you're going to put him somewhere so visible to the general public, that's not the best place for him. Put him somewhere else. Put him in a more red state where he's not going to make so many headlines. Tom Holman also makes headlines, but he does it intentionally on Fox News and in the media. He doesn't do it when he's on the ground. His strategy is actually genius. Trump should be listening to him a lot more. He knows how to win this thing without making so many headlines.
Non also says, remember when it took him, Bovino, like 3 times to pull a pin on a gas canister?
Yeah, and there's videos of him outside of a Walmart and a few other incidents that happened on the ground, which didn't look good. And what he had to say in those incidents didn't look good either.
Oh, and Rafa. Thank you so much for the 200 peso super chat. That's very
gracias.
generous of you. I hadn't seen it. Otherwise, I would have pulled it up first. But Rafa says, wow, am I the first super chat? Congratulations for monetizing. Yes, you are. And thank you so much.
Yeah, you are.
And thank you for all your support also on the Spanish channel throughout this past year that the English channel has been working as well. And thank you so much right now.
Yeah, we haven't really mentioned it. We mentioned it the first day we
have monetized. So we continue to say we want to get to 1,000 because then it's also like the full monetization according to YouTube.
Yeah.
But thank you so much and thank you.
Okay.
Rafa also says it was about time they tried to de-escalate. They were pretty dumb and reckless when they said the other lessee was a domestic terrorist.
Yeah, especially right after these incidents happen, the administration tries to come out really hard with this hard line and justify everything. And it didn't work in their favor, especially in this last incident. It is time to de-escalate things. They're having incidents happen. Luckily, they're able to justify the first one in a certain way. This last one, less so. But this should be a warning to them, like, just de-escalate at this point. They have the National Guard in there, which is a state National Guard, so it won't fall on the federal government.
And hold on, because now I gotta go to RUMBLE to read them there. And we had another one that I'm trying to get, but it won't let me. I can't pull it up on screen, so I'll just read it, although the guy just left. Okay, Anonymous says, LOL, the guy you said we will pay illegals to leave them, so they can return and do it legally. Just give amnesty at that point. And I agree with you, which is kind of what I said. I said it won't be, like that would not, I don't think, especially for the ones with arrest warrants or that have done criminal actions within the United States while being having it also illegally entered, I don't think that would be a position that most, at least Trump supporters or MAHA or America First, especially people would support, just paying people to leave and then essentially giving them amnesty.
Number one, they're already paying $2,600. Number two, they have the border shut now. So if they deport people and they have to pay to deport them, as long as they keep that border shut, which it's completely militarized on the Mexico side by the Mexican military and the American military, and there's permanent bases being built there now, it's going to be very hard to get back in at this point. So in the sake of the midterms, I would say the strategy that is working is the incentive program. Almost 2 million people have self-deported at this point with that program. So continue that program and expand it. And that program might not catch headlines, but in a good way, but it doesn't catch headlines in a bad way either. And it actually gets you to your goal.
And just quickly to finish off here on the YouTube chat, Non says Reagan granted amnesty to millions. Yeah, and a lot of people were not very happy about that.
No, at the time Reagan did it, and I understand giving amnesty, it would normally be a thing, but when you just let 11 million in under Biden, and previous administrations let million in as well, that completely changes the voter rolls. It changes a lot of different aspects. Because they let in so many, I'm not for mass amnesty. If it was 1 million or 2 million, I could say, okay, yeah, mass amnesty. When we're looking at between 11 and 30 million, depending on what years you're looking at, it's too many. You're going to lose your culture at this point.
And now I'm going over to Aryo and Billy. And Ethel, hello, Ethel. Sorry for kind of ignoring you for an hour and something. Ethel says, getting ready with the comments in 3, 2, 1, go. Also, Ethel says, self-deport for how much? 3,000? Immigrants can make this much in a couple of weeks. Even gypsy scammers running and selling fake gold make thousands in cash. The self-deport program is hardly a success. And also says, don't forget to mention the threats received by James O'Keefe and his crew after they were frisked, disarmed, and questioned by the mob in Minnesota. You want to answer the first one and then...
Yeah, what happened with James O'Keefe was insane, but he's not the only one. That's why you're not seeing. I watch these protests for hours, and you were telling me the other day, like, why are you watching left wingers? And I'm like, that's the only people they're letting on the ground. So these left wingers are filming, and it's just constant propaganda commentary. And I'm like, this is the only way to watch it live, and I want to see it live on the ground. What was the first half of the thing though?
Oh, that self-deport for how much? 3,000? Immigrants can make this much in a couple of weeks. Even gypsy scammers running and selling fake gold make thousands in cash.
Yeah, but you have to realize you have to create an incentive program. Number one, that if it's an untenable situation on the ground, meaning you start threatening their jobs through their employers. So you make it untenable in a lot of different ways. You make it untenable by saying, yeah, ICE is on the ground. So you do want to make some headlines, just not in states like Minnesota, but you want headlines that ICE is on the ground. They are deporting people. Before they deport you, take the $3,000 or the $5,000 and self-deport.
Ethel also says, so what's your forecast for the events to unfold now? A new wave of George Fenty, I have to say. Peaceful protests all around, or finally, Tim full Civil War prophecies, or a nothing burger and moving on. Well, now with the apparent de-escalation and also Trump maybe moving at least some of the ICE operations out of Minnesota, I do agree with you. Like, that would end up with Tim Walz holding the bag and looking dumb and looking like completely even more incompetent than he has already looked. But I don't know if they could just move them over to a different state and start this whole ruckus all over again in California, which they already tried, for example.
Tom Holdman had the right strategy. He gave Trump that strategy right off the bat. He said, don't go into Minnesota. Don't even go into the 6 blue states where they're going to have this major resistance. Go where you have the cooperation. There's a lot of work to do in those places where they already have the cooperation. Clear those kind of out first. And kind of go from there. And he wants to de-escalate the situation. That's why I'm glad Tom Homan's kind of getting brought in now. If Trump takes a left turn and escalates this and brings in federal law enforcement, this could result in a color revolution. So
within a state.
No, it would spread at that point.
Ethel also asks, Guy, do you think the dude who captured Maduro should stop now in the face of Minneapolis protesters? Maybe on the contrary, he should quadruple down and go complete scorched earth. That's what I voted for. That's what I was saying. A lot of Trump voters would actually not be very happy with a full-on de-escalation.
Yeah, and what I'm saying here is I understand the wanting to stand your ground, and if you had a super majority, yeah, that would be fine. The midterms are coming up, and if Trump and the conservatives lose there, they're number one impeaching Trump, and they're going to look very, very good for Gavin Newsom in 2028. You have to be aware of the optics. If Trump can fix the optics, he's still got a long time to go. He still has his base on his side. If he can appeal to the moderates, and he's got a lot of good policies coming in. The economy should be good by the time the midterms come up. He could win the midterms, and if he does win the midterms, he could make a huge difference there. And then he could, because he doesn't have to get reelected in 2028, he could go hard at that point.
And Ethel also says, Trump needs to use this opportunity to identify and agree with us all and every one of those agitators and their sponsors and politically nuke them. For once, do escalate, invite all the Hydra heads to pop up and then cut.
Well, yeah, that could be a good strategy as well. But I don't want any further escalate. I think further escalation from what we have now, There's been 3 major incidents. They've kind of been lucky that this thing hasn't spiraled out of control and the city hasn't burnt down at this point.
Because it's too cold, I think.
Yeah.
For there really to be that much impulse, like we saw with
International news is literally framing this as there's going to be a color revolution. Now, I don't necessarily believe that. I think Trump's smart enough to kind of take the small L on this one for the bigger L in the 50 other states.
For the bigger W.
Or the bigger W. Yeah, sorry.
Ethel also says, Guy, you're suggesting that Trump should back down because otherwise Minnesota is going to burn. But that's the plan. If ICE leave, rioting and chaos is next guaranteed step with Trump to blame. Or, as you say, and I agree, maybe what Guy says could happen, that instead of it continuing, it just ends up all falling on Tim Walz's
head. Yeah.
Head.
So, yeah, if Trump brings in the federal military or continues with ICE, it falls on Trump's head. If he pulls that out and said, I think Tim Walz has this, we've come to an agreement. He's called National Guard, which is in his control, not my control. It's now state police and local city law enforcement, which is also in Tim Walz's control. We'll let Tim Walz handle this.
Ethel also says, hold on, I agree.
It would fall on Tim Walz's head at that point, I think.
Ethel says, I agree with Guy that Preti was in his right to be armed. And from what we saw, he was fighting with ICE, but not with his gun. That seems to be not agreeing with that. That's America versus Mexico here, right? No, what I'm saying is during concealed carry courses, for example, they always say that if you ever enter a conflict, especially with a police or a law enforcement officer, if you have a gun, that becomes an armed conflict. And there's a lot more justification for police to do something if you decide to escalate the conflict because you're now an armed suspect that could injure not just the police officer but others around him. So he just has to be it has to be a justified use of the police officer's weapon if he believes you can harm him or others. So the conflict becomes a lot harsher and the terms become a lot harsher once, even if you have your Second Amendment and even if you're doing it with a permit, etc. Having a permit for concealed carry doesn't allow you to go and then escalate tensions or enter conflicts without that being considered.
I think the biggest loss that can happen here is if American citizens start losing freedoms because of a color revolution or what happens in the streets here. If there's justification for the Senate and Congress to limit the Second Amendment or start eliminating the First Amendment or bring in a hate speech or even bringing in a digital ID or a stop and frisk policy, I mean, you have a potential if violence continues here, you're going to see freedoms be stripped from the American people. And ultimately, that's not what I want to see. And if Trump continues to escalate this, maybe that's what both sides kind of want.
But I'm not saying do that. I'm not saying strip people of their rights and freedoms. I'm saying there's consequences to actions, even if it is within the Constitution. Like the consequences are still there.
The consequences are there, but
both legal and logical.
He was completely legally justified to have that gun in his holster.
I'm not saying he wasn't justified. I'm saying if he enters a conflict and escalates a conflict with a police officer, then the officer is also allowed to see that as an armed conflict, which has very different rules than a non-armed, a disarmed civilian.
Yeah, but you also have to realize that citizens are allowed to be armed in the United States.
Yes, they are. I'm not saying no.
You can't just shoot a citizen because he has a gun.
No, but he heard again, and this is where the series of unfortunate events happens. He heard a gun go off. He had seen that he had a gun, assumed probably that it was the guy, and within the 3 split seconds that
I understand.
Then he shot.
I understand how it was tragic, and I understand how the gun went off.
I'm not saying don't bring guns. I'm saying understand that you have also a responsibility as an armed citizen when you're carrying guns into a conflict or into a protest or into somewhere where there could be escalation with law enforcement.
If this was the opposite situation and it was a conservative that got shot with a legal gun that never unholstered it and was on the ground with 6 armed guys on top of him and the gun had been taken by an officer, you wouldn't be hearing right-wing people or conservatives say what they're saying right now.
What I'm saying, or because I don't know what they're saying. What I'm saying is you also have a responsibility as an armed citizen to know how to and what the consequences are of you bringing this and escalating a conflict into an armed conflict.
Okay.
With a legal permit holding gun.
Yeah, it's a legal gun, and I'm going to protect freedom of speech and gun rights to the end.
Yes, I'm not. Again, when did I say take him away, take the gun away, or he should? Well, I never said he wasn't allowed or legally allowed to have it there. I'm saying when you escalate into a conflict, it becomes an armed conflict, and the response from the police
It was
officers
a one-sided armed conflict. An armed conflict would be two people engaging with a gun. He never engaged with his gun. He had a camera.
Again, they thought he did because they heard a shot go off after another officer had yelled gun, gun,
Because
gun.
the cop
I know. But again,
took his gun and it went off in the cops.
And that is the series of unfortunate events. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Ethel says, today Guy and Nat disagree like 48% more than usual.
Well,
but I don't think we disagree. I just think he's misunderstanding or intentionally misunderstanding the points I'm trying to make.
I think you have the points. A lot of conservatives, this situation bothered me quite a bit with the position. A lot of conservatives, number one, took on gun rights just because it was a leftist. And if you take rights away from that leftist, you're going to take your own rights away eventually. So that was number one. Number two, I think a lot of people are saying you're either going to pull out or man up. I mean, bring in the full-fledged military and escalate the situation. And that's how conservative commentary is really trying to get this thing escalated, and hopefully Trump is smarter than that, because if he escalates this, he only has a lot more to lose than he has to gain.
Yeah, but you painted me into a corner where I don't agree with most of those things, but you want me to take the other side, the conservative side, so you can say your spiel. That's not what I'm saying.
I'm not saying a spiel. I'm saying what I actually think.
I know, but what I'm saying is you're using me as a conservative side, which I'm not fully on because I don't agree with a lot of things also that they're saying, that the mainstream conservative commentary is saying. Ethel says, Reagan destroyed California, F amnesty. Basically.
Yeah, Reagan did destroy California, but he did bring in one good policy, even though the education system's kind of messed up nationwide now. Because of ideology, he did pay poor people to go to college, meaning if you don't make a lot of money in the state of California, they'll pay you $3,000 per semester to go to school and pay for all your books and everything else, which is a good policy. I'd like to see that expanded.
Ethel also says, the midterms are already lost with all the scam finances exposed through Erica. I'm guessing Kirk or Skmirk. Whatever's being done now is all in. There's nothing to lose already.
Yeah, I don't. I think we're going to talk more about Erica Kirk on Friday. They're trying to they're nitpicking at small things at this point, which are insane. I was watching Wolves in Finance, and I ended up watching the entire episode because his spiel on the front end. I like Robert Barnes. Robert Barnes is a constitutional attorney and a tax attorney, and he kind of called Robert Barnes out, saying Robert Barnes called me out, but I actually like him and I like Viva Frei. So I watched the entire hour, and he's grasping at straws at this point. And he was the main person that was digging into TPUSA's finances. And you might find minor things, but at this point, he's not even really going after their finances. He's going after what he's calling ballot harvesting without, again, he doesn't have appropriate evidence.
And Ethel says, I don't think we should refer to a legal action as an escalation. It's either legal and non-escalatory, or it's illegal and escalatory. They could have been misled by anything and shot him regardless.
Yeah, I think a lot of these officers are mistrained. They're thinking you're not, I've seen on camera a lot of times, officers saying you're not allowed to film, which, number one, that's a complete lie. That's First Amendment protected speech. And then number two, they're under the impression these protesters can't be armed. And if they are armed, that they can escalate this thing extremely quickly. And that's just not the case. Just because somebody's armed doesn't mean you get to shoot them. No. And especially you don't get to shoot him in the back.
But they didn't shoot him just because he was armed. There was a lot of things that happened beforehand, and the gun went off after a guy yelled gun, gun, gun. Should he have said, I gun neutralized or something? Yes, probably. And then if it went off, they would have said, oh, it's probably not the guy.
He had 6 guys on him. You should have each took an arm. He couldn't have grabbed the gun at that point.
Sure. But by that time, again, he yelled gun, gun, gun. It went off the next second, and then the other guy unholstered and shot him. So that's in a span of 3 seconds.
Yeah, also, I don't know if that's proper protocol. I mean, he took the gun. He had possession of the gun. It's CBP, so I don't know. The officer took possession of the gun, and then yelled gun, 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 and ran away. The thing is, when you yell gun, usually that's when the suspect's pulling a gun. Out, yeah. So did you make the other officers extremely jittery and then cause them to fire into his back?
think the first one was to the front. But
like this is a situation that maybe tells Trump it's time to de-escalate in that particular state.
Back to YouTube. Rafa says, my message had way more W's than the wow, but dumb YouTube thought I was referencing your URL. So I'll read it again. Wow, I'm the first super chat. Congratulations for monetizing. Thank you so much again for the 200 peso super chat. Trent Briggs says they need to stop interfering with ICE agents.
Yeah, and
it won't be that easy, but
I agree with that. But this is obviously organized. They want this, and they want more law enforcement there. They want more incidents. I'm sure they have a game plan to escalate it at this point. I'm expecting next weekend to be huge. I think Trump needs to de-escalate before the weekend hits.
And hold on. And Trent Briggs also says, but Christie is kind of clueless. No, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's why I put her on the cover. She was actually really, relieved on Monday, which was today. They moved her somewhere else as well.
Oh, they did.
They don't want, yeah. So they did
That part I didn't know.
with both individuals. So, and they brought Tom Holman in, which I think has a much better game plan overall. Kristi Noem and the other guy, the one guy is very heavy-handed and very much in the public eye. Kristi Noem just doesn't really know what she's doing, especially for that position. So bringing in Tom Holman, hopefully, I think he's going to make the right moves here.
Trent Briggs also says going to a protest with a GUN is beyond crazy.
Yeah, it's a dumb move without a shadow of a doubt. That being said, you have the Second Amendment right in the United States, and I like the fact that they have that. We're originally from Canada and we're in Mexico. And when I talk to people about gun rights, they just don't understand. And it's absolutely ridiculous. In Canada, only the government can have guns, and that gives them all the power. In Mexico, only the criminals in the government have guns. So it's twice as bad.
Mm-hmm.
So like normal citizens, law-abiding citizens, I'll protect their rights to own a gun with everything, and freedom of speech as well. And I think both of these things are kind of being highlighted in these protests.
Non says, I had a concealed carry permit in Oregon for a decade. You have to look at this differently. He's a man that carries a gun everywhere that was attending a protest, not a guy that brought a gun too. However, we do know that he was involved within the same signal chats that got exposed, and that he was being trained and training other people to escalate situations. So if it was just a guy that was crossing the street and tried to help a girl that got maced or pepper sprayed, sure. But he was actively and has been proven to have been actively involved with the whole ICE watch stuff. So in that case, I mean, yes, you'd have to get into his brain and figure out what his motivations were to bring it to the protest. But we also just saw another crazy Antifa leftist saying, oh, we have to arm ourselves and bring our guns and we're all going to show up and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, legally, they can do that. Legally, they're allowed to do that. Not take them out, but they're allowed to bring their guns. Period.
Yes. But again, okay, I'm not going into this again. Non says, I carried my gun like it was in my wallet. I carried it anywhere and everywhere because I carried concealed 24/7, 365. Only metal detectors would stop me.
Yeah, and you're
again, I'm saying, yes, you can bring it, but once you get into an escalating conflict with a federal agent, officer that you're trying to stop from doing his job, then there's also consequences for you having it at that time.
Maybe there should be consequences for the cop for like
you just said you thought he was justified, but
yeah,
I think he's justified.
You got to think about the add-on effects here, of what's going to happen.
Yes, but he, in those split 3 seconds, he can't think of what's going to happen in a year and the midterms and the this and
I'm
the
not
Trump
saying
and
the
that.
midterms and this and that. I'm saying that they secured the gun. So maybe they have to have a different word other than gun, 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 which puts the other officer on edge, and then he fires into the gentleman's back. When you fire five shots.
He fired front, I think. First.
No, he did. 100% he did not. I've watched this about 100 times. No, it's 5 shots in the back. That's what made it so outrageous.
I think one was in the front, then he turned, and then he went to the back and shot him in the back.
It was 5 shots in the back, and that's what's making this outrageous.
The first one was front.
Okay. They took the gun away from him. They secured the gun.
And then the guy started going like this.
They fired his own gun, and then they fired 5 shots in his back.
The gun misfired.
Okay.
Number one. They didn't shoot his gun. The gun misfired.
Well, hold on.
Then the guy started reaching for something in his back. And as he's reaching, the other guy yells gun, and the gun misfires. And then the other one shoots him for his front and then back.
If I'm holding a gun here to you.
Okay, you can't do that.
And it fires, misfires. Did I still shoot the gun?
Yes, you did.
I did. Exactly.
Alec Baldwin. We went through this.
Exactly. So when I say it misfires and you said, well, he never shot the gun. Well, if it
didn't intentionally
if it misfired in his hand, he shot the gun, which caused the other cop to then shoot.
But it was the guy's gun.
Yeah.
Not his gun.
Yeah.
So technically, isn't the guy liable for a gun that malfunctions? Same as what happened in the Alec Baldwin situation when he
No,
shot that
because
producer.
he had it holstered, he had it under control, and he didn't reach for it.
Yeah, but they were taking it away because he was already escalating and fighting with the cops. He wasn't complying with what federal officers were asking him to do, which was stop so they can detain him.
When I watched,
and he kept wriggling himself around.
When the girl got hit with the car, I was on ICE's side that entire time.
No, when the girl hit an ICE agent
Sorry,
with her
when
car.
that girl hit the ICE agent with the car, I defended ICE in that case. In this case, I'm not defending ICE. 2 women got peppered sprayed. Then he got peppered
But
sprayed.
what were the women doing before they got pepper sprayed?
Let me finish.
You need to know that part
Let
too.
me finish. 2 women got sprayed. Then he came
what
up,
were they
and then he got sprayed twice. He was on the ground holding his face. He
was not on the gun. He was not on the ground holding his face. What he did initially that got him pepper sprayed was try to shove an ice off CBP or an agent out of the way.
Away.
No, he literally made contact with the officer. With his hand made contact, the officer went back.
Me, okay.
Because he was trying to save the 2 ladies that were pepper sprayed because they were interfering with a federal operation.
I don't know if you've ever been pepper sprayed at close range. I have.
Okay.
And he was on the ground reeling. I don't know if he was resisting or he was literally reeling on the ground.
He got pepper sprayed after he tried to move the officer away from the lady that he was trying to detain.
By the time he was on the ground, when I was watching him on the ground,
again,
he
did
wasn't
you watch
punching.
any of
Yes,
the things
I did.
that
I
happened
watched
right before?
I watched the entire thing.
Then you would know what led to the circumstances of him being on the ground and him not complying with officers. Same as Renee Good. She was not complying with officers.
I'm not just justifying the Renee Good thing. I think ICE was justified in that particular case.
Okay.
In this one, it does not look good. I don't think they were justified.
I don't think it looks good.
And I don't think he was resisting on the ground. I think he was real. Okay, we'll disagree with that.
He was literally shifting his arms and was trying to wriggle away.
He had a massive amount of pepper spray in his face.
No, he had his phone in his hand. Well, in his left hand, he had his phone. And then he reached with his right one, right as some other officer that already got his gun starts yelling, gun, gun, gun.
Okay, you think it was a justified shooting.
I'm not saying justified.
Don't, but
I'm saying the threshold is the officer justifiably thinking that he's in a life or death or in a threatening situation.
Yeah, I know you've seen those talking points earlier today.
What talking points?
If he reaches the threshold.
Yes, that you just said you don't think he should be charged.
No, I don't think he should be charged. That being said, you might want to look at new protocol. What should actually happen on the ground? Can ICE actually interact and pull security for themselves?
No, maybe they shouldn't.
A lot of things should need to change because of this particular situation.
Yes.
Now, the Renee Good situation, I think, was justified and not much needs to change in that situation. This particular case, a guy takes 5 to the back, didn't have a gun on him because they secured it away from him.
Trent Briggs says, yes, legal to have, but playing with fire by carrying around police.
Yeah.
Non says, it's not playing with fire, that's victim blaming. But again, if he was involved in the planning and the doing and the going of the protest, also included in the signal chats, and being known to other protesters as somebody that was organizing, then there's more motivation there than just, oh, I was walking around and saw this happen and I was carrying a legal gun with my permit. Like those are 2 very different circumstances.
Yeah,
he was there to impede officers and the agents that were there to carry out a federal investigation.
When I was younger, I didn't necessarily have the best view of police officers, and I didn't necessarily always cooperate. As I've gotten older, I mind my P's and Q's when I interact with a police officer. I do understand. Like if I'm getting pulled over, my hands are on the wheels. I wait to reach for my driver's license until they ask for it. I don't unbuckle my seatbelt because it can look like something. Then again, I'm somebody that's going to cooperate. That this individual might not be. That doesn't mean they have the right to strip him of his rights and take his life.
Again, I'm not getting into this again. Trent Briggs says, I do think the first shot went off by accident.
Yeah,
and that's what caused the panic. And again, it is all the circumstances led to all the circumstances were bad that led to an even worse outcome.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think the cop should be prosecuted because it did go off by accident. That being said, protocol needs to change. When they secure a weapon from an individual, they need a different word other than gun, gun, gun. Because when you say that, cops typically think
it's a
somebody's
1-second
pulling
reaction.
a gun.
And it's a 1-second reaction where they just start shooting.
So maybe they should say secure or something like that, or some other safe word, so all the officers there kind of know.
Yeah. Non says, also I always had extra loaded because concealed carry. Rafa says, bringing that to a protest may be a right, but it's not bright.
No, it's not
I
bright.
agree.
It's not bright at all. And the way he was interacting with police wasn't bright at all. I mean, it was a tragic escalation. And it wasn't like a lot of these other protesters, like that gentleman we seen earlier, the leftist that was talking about, we need to mount up. We need to bring our weapons. We need to bring the fight to them. Like, somebody like that's asking for it. I don't necessarily think this guy was asking for it. 2 women were getting pepper sprayed. Yes, he stepped in between. Then he got pepper sprayed. And I think things snowballed organically. I don't think this was necessarily a sit-up situation.
Oh, and Rafa, thank you so much. And I missed this other super chat as well, but now I'm seeing it. Thank you so much for the 50 peso super chat, being very generous today. Rafa says, my darkest secrets is that I come here just to watch Nat and Guy fight.
Today was the right episode because we've actually been fighting all weekend about this case.
Kind of.
No, because first the initial information would come out, and then I would go talk to you, and then you would bring in information, and then we would go kind of back and
That's
forth.
essentially how it works. But I also had to be editing this whole weekend, so I wasn't fully in it because I was doing other things. But thank you so much, Rafa. And Trembrig says, yes, Guy was for sure reaching for something. Photos still showed that clearly. That's what I'm saying.
But he had his phone, and
He had his phone, which means he wasn't trying to reach for his phone, which is what a lot of people have said.
Okay.
Non says they should take pushing down little old ladies out of the protocol. Guy is totally right, saying gun 3 times to warn other officers that the person has a gun out. Yeah. And that is a protocol.
Well, and these, I'm just going to say, like, I'm supportive of ICE. I'm supportive of law enforcement. But the way they're recruiting these ICE officers en masse for big dollar amounts, a lot of people are coming in. They're being rushed through training. These particular officers, you said, had quite a few years of experience. But a lot of these people on the ground don't. They don't know how to interact with the media. And a lot of this is one big media operation because the left really wants to catch them doing something wrong so they can clip it.
And again, the left is looking for martyrs. So they will escalate to the point where they can get another one.
Yeah.
Non also says hashtag Goon Squad goals.
Well, at this point, I've been watching so many leftist protesters on X. They're literally ready to give their life. I think they're going to go out to Minnesota, or if this thing spreads, you're going to see them try to martyr themselves intentionally. I think the incidents that happened so far were accidental. But if you see people try to martyr themselves and put themselves in an extremely vulnerable situation that will portray something to the general public, it's not going to be good. That's why you're going to want to escalate out of these hyper-focused media situations like in Minnesota.
Hold on. Just trying to get this one. Non says it's just bad training. 41 days of bad training. These new ICE recruits are not ready. That's why they keep violating the rights of American citizens. I don't know if they keep violating.
I watch a lot of. I focus a lot on the ground, and they're saying you're not allowed to film. You can't have a weapon. These are the 2 critical constitutional amendments that I want to protect, even as a conservative. And these agents are just out there telling citizens they don't have these rights.
And Non says, I went to the very same Starbucks every morning and afternoon. Both times were at the local. And then the other one, I think, got axed.
Okay.
Oh, no, because it got deleted. Tremberg says, media is making the situation far worse, though, by gaslighting. Yes, and I fully agree with that as well. And I think it was I'm pretty sure now it's CBP officers, not ICE officers, that were involved in that. So I'm guessing the training is also different from what we've seen from ICE officers. And I think CBP officers, Customs and Border Patrol, are even less trained and equipped to de-escalate protests against them.
Yeah, but I mean, the Trump administration really has to game plan and strategize going forward over the next 3 years. How are they going to actually do this? Are they going to give them incentive bonuses? Do they want to go after the corruption? Are there different ways they can gather lists of illegal immigrants and then enforce things? Because what they're doing in Minnesota, it's not working because of media interference and these situations that are popping up. But these situations are going to pop up more and more often if people start martyring themselves intentionally.
And then just quickly over an Are You and Billy, and then we'll get on with the rest of the show. Ethel says, Guy, when you get pulled over in Mexico, do you pay 100 pesos for them to look the other way?
Yeah.
No.
Haven't you wonder they won't search your car?
No, they don't. They've never pulled us over.
No, they don't. They actually, because we live in Mexico City, They've been fairly good.
Yeah, it's a rare occasion because, I mean, depends on where you are in Mexico City or close to Mexico City, but yeah, usually that would happen like farther away in different states. Rafa says cops in the U.S. will pull. Hold on. Cops in the U.S. will put 6 shot poodle just because it's barking at them. I think the LA control and how many rounds they shoot is a big issue.
Yeah,
loss of control?
In this case, it's federal agents and military, as well as some local police, but not so much. Local police, there is a ton of corruption, especially with departments that don't want to have body cameras. Body cameras are extremely important, and I haven't seen any cameras come out of this incident. So if ICE agents aren't wearing body cameras,
again, they weren't ICE, they were CBP,
well,
and I don't know if CBP has.
All law enforcement agencies should be wearing body cameras. Even probation officers that go to people's houses should be wearing body cameras, period. Because if they're not wearing a body camera and then you go to court, they're always going to believe the officer. And that can be a problem, especially when they're corrupt.
Well, but we also saw them only believe the victims for the longest time as well, with George Fenty and a bunch of other people. And the Kyle Rittenhouse case that almost went sideways, and Derek Chauvin.
That's why we need cameras with audio.
Yes. And Rafa said that he sent that over on the VIP Live, which is RUMBLE, where we are also streaming. Okay, should we finally move away from this
we're going to go into, actually not U.S. politics. What's next? Personality politics.
Do you want to go there? Or?
Yeah, we just have 2 quick stories in there.
Okay.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people.
A lot less fighting now, hopefully. Let's move away from Minnesota. From White Media, quote, in 2009, George Soros told the World Economic Forum, young global leader Chrystia Freeland, about the need to create the New World Order owned by China, insisting that a managed decline of the US dollar is not only necessary, but actually desirable.
What sort of a financial deal should Obama be seeking to strike when he travels to China next month?
No, I think this would be the time, because you really need to bring China into the creation of a new world order, financial world order. So I think you need a new world order that China has to be part of the process of creating it, and they have to buy in, they have to own it. And I think this would be a more stable one, where you would have a coordinated policies.
Given this continued weakness in the U.S. economy, are people right to start to be concerned about the dollar?
An orderly decline of the dollar is
Okay, and I just wanted to leave it there because I wanted to talk about the New World Order. Mark Carney came out the other day.
We're going to get a tag under the video again.
Mark Carney came out the other day when he was in negotiations with China saying that as well. It's obvious there's this global push for certain things. The thing is, Trump is against a lot of this, but he's done the heavy lifting the globalists could never really get done, because optically, people were hyper aware of that. Trump's been able to do a lot of this. So if Gavin Newsom gets there in 2028, or something happens in the midterms and the Democrats win and then impeach Trump, you're going to see this new global push, and they're going to have more power than ever, because a lot of pieces have been moved around the chessboard in geopolitics now. And you can go into health and MAHA next.
Oh, you don't want to do it?
Okay, we'll do it.
Because it's funny. From Dom Lucra, he says, quote, Hollywood actress Sydney Sweeney might get arrested on vandalism charges after breaking the Hollywood sign, climbing the Hollywood sign and hanging her bras on it to promote her new lingerie brand. That's an interesting, I mean, at least they're not burning their bras anymore. They're just hanging them off of places.
Sick.
They're all dirty now.
Good job.
Okay, and you can leave it there. And it's a good way to promote her brand. I don't think she's going to get arrested. They probably had it prearranged, especially because she's an international star. She's not going to want to risk her ability to travel internationally because she has a criminal record or something like that. So I think they wanted to make it a lot more guerrilla, like we just went there and did this, than it probably actually was.
We'll see. And I don't think they'd arrest her. And you usually, but the virality of the moment
Well-
that has picked up on mainstream news and on independent media. So
California is a sanctuary state, so if you're a legal alien, you're safe. But if you're Sydney Sweeney hanging your bras from the Hollywood sign, they're coming for you.
well, especially after the whole debacle about her, good genes, having good genes, and then that whole thing, and then her not wanting to fully apologize. She kind of went back, but then she went.
Well,
et cetera.
we had a third story in personality politics, but I moved it to RUMBLE because it was about Kanye West, and it's a little bit racy. So
Literally and metaphorically. Let's move on to. Oh, hold on. We do have one comment from Nom.
Oh, okay.
Saying, can you imagine the types of people that want to work for ICE? Yikes. I think initially it was people that wanted to support the effort, but they do get paid a lot.
The rumor was it's around $200,000. Like, I think a lot of people are going to go. Leftists obviously won't, but I think for $200,000, it's going to be mainly men that are going to go work for it. But yeah, I think most men would. I would go work for it for $200,000.
But I also think that they shouldn't be doxing them or their families or chasing them down when they're off duty, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was actually shocked when I have to confirm that it's $200,000, but I've seen multiple reports now. That's a ton of money.
And Rafa says about Sydney Sweeney, she is perfect. Pretty much. I mean,
I don't
you don't like her?
No, I don't think she's as hot as stars used to be.
Okay.
Well, Angelina Jolie before she lost her breast was great. She was the hottest star. She was the hottest star in Hollywood.
Yeah, but now she's older.
And she's crazy leftist
She is
as well.
crazy, but she's always been crazy.
I think I dodged a bullet and Brad Pitt took that one on the chin.
Oh, yes, because you would have been with Angelina Jolie. Yes.
Of course.
Ethel says, I would work for ICE voluntarily. and then there's people like that. Again, I do think a lot of them initially, there's a lot of them that have been working for it for years and just now they're getting doxxed. But the newer recruits, I do think probably need a bit more training at least.
Well, and a lot of people that do
and the right motivations too.
A lot of people that want to get into law enforcement, there's been a lot of DEI policies that have held back certain groups from getting into law enforcement. So I could see people going into ICE because the standards are much lower because they need so many recruits.
Yeah.
It's much like the U.S. military lowered their standards multiple times when they're at war because they need more recruits. So it's a way to start building a resume within law enforcement, I guess. Okay.
Let's move on to health and MAHA, or Make America Healthy, make the world healthy again. And education, right.
But the greatest danger of all would be to do nothing.
And we might not get through all the segments today,
Well,
but
that's okay. We'll try.
Okay, first one, this man. From Concerned Citizen, quote, World Health Organization Director Tedros says, you all need to change your diet to help tackle climate change.
Well, and this clip goes with the next clip.
now.
So people are pushing back against Tedros.
Our food systems are harming the health of people and planet. Food systems contribute to over 30% of greenhouse gas emissions and account for almost 1/3 of the global burden of disease. Transforming food systems is therefore essential by shifting towards healthier, diversified, and more plant-based diets. If food systems delivered healthy diets for all, we could save 8 million lives per year. WHO is committed to supporting countries to develop and implement policies to improve diets and fight climate change. I'm therefore very pleased that over 130 countries have signed the COP28 U.A.E. Declaration on Climate and Health. Our food system...
When you start integrating food policies with intentional GMO corn, genetically modifying it, climate change, getting rid of meats, I mean, you're not going to get a good buy-in from people. People are going to ridicule you and make fun of you. I mean, RFK is focused on food, but he's focused on food in the right way.
And that's what I was going to say.
Which I think he has the support of citizens behind him. And I think that's what the UN doesn't realize here. And they've been making this mistake, not just when it comes to food, but a lot of other things.
Yeah, and then focusing it, again, yes, on climate change, but also what RFK and MAHA and all of them are doing is, yes, eat better, eat right, eat less processed food, have less food dyes, use less pesticides when you're growing food. All of that, most people can get behind, especially if you help them discover the fact of how food is produced. And I will agree, for example, with massive like cow factory farming for cows or chickens, etc. That is not as sustainable both for humans and for the animals that get sent there or that get processed there. But framing it as, oh, it's because the methane that the cows emit causes climate change, that's not the way to go about it. The way to go about it is to help incentivize smaller farming and better farming practices by helping people open up their own farms, for example, instead of taking them away and selling all the land to Bill Gates.
Yeah, but that's kind of what the UN and the WHO want. They want this massive industrial farming.
That they
don't
can
want
control
small
and
farms,
regulate.
and that's why they press GMO seeds so hard.
And also fake burger meat, fake meat, all of that. I mean, that is what Bill Gates is doing with his
Let's go into the second story
farmland.
because it is related.
And other creepy things. From In Milei We Trust, I don't trust him that much. Quote, President Javier Milei is preparing a formal complaint against the WHO Director General Tedros before the International Criminal Court. He accuses the WHO leadership of crimes against humanity during the pandemic lockdowns, mandates, and policies that caused massive harm to global freedom and health sovereignty. After already withdrawing Argentina from the WHO following Trump's lead, Milei is now taking the fight to the international level. No more globalist overreach.
Yeah, and the big word there, I think, is sovereignty. And I think that's what a lot of these NGOs, three-letter organizations, and even secondary governing bodies like the EU that kind of lord over individual countries, they're taking their sovereignty away from them. They're placing it in somebody else's hands, and then they're forcing these politicians in these individual countries to implement these policies without actually having a choice. And it's causing a rift between the citizens and their elected officials.
And one of the first things I think I ever reported on the other channel when it used to be an English channel was what the WHO was trying to mandate countries to do and how they wanted to get countries to get on board so the WHO and the unelected officials had essentially total control over countries if they could declare a health emergency or a pandemic or whatever, which was incredibly frightening. And they did pass part of it, which is the worst part. And a lot of people don't know that it passed.
Yeah, I don't know if Trump's trying to make an alternative system to the UN. I don't know if that's going to work out, but not enough countries are kind of standing up and withdrawing from some of these treaties, especially the WHO. The new Jibby Jab treaty they had. A lot of countries were automatically signed into it unless they verbally said they wanted to get out of it. Only a few countries actually said they didn't want to be part of it. Mm-hmm. So now their pandemic policies, if there's another pandemic, are going to be outsourced to the WHO and a bunch of globalists.
Mm-hmm. But let's go to...
Mexico being one of those, and we live here, so it's a little worrying.
Yeah. But, I mean, they can barely manage anything here. Let's go to education now. And I am a big advocate for homeschooling. From Will Coleshill, yes. Prison for homeschooling your children in the UK. The UK government is moving to strip parents of their right to homeschool their own children. Digital ID, home surveillance, presumption of guilt, and prison sentences for parents is in the new schools bill.
People are really petrified that they're literally going to lose their way of life. And it's literally putting the state between the parent and their child. It's like they've forgotten how to trust the parent.
Hello, this is Will Coulter reporting for UK Column. Today I'm down here in Westminster covering the Schools and Children's Wellbeing Bill, a bill which looks like it could end home education in this country as we know it.
So I'm Michelle Zahir, and we're part of a campaign group of parents, educators, child advocates, social workers amongst our
I
campaign
just
as
wanted
well.
to show the clip to bring up the conversation of homeschooling and how they're trying to take it away in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think homeschooling is an absolute cornerstone, not only for educational rights, but for parental rights as well. And I mean, if you can take away homeschooling, why can't you take away religious schooling next? And they're just going to broaden it out and broaden it out.
Which they have tried already, but in Canada also, another part of the reasons why we left, or at least I wanted to leave, was because of the stripping of parental rights in Canada and the ability of parents to parent and be a parent to their children. In official documents in Canada, they came out to say that parents can be like a guide and can help be there for their children, but the education should be left up to the government and the state and those who know how to do it properly, which is incredibly terrifying. And especially if you know the kinds of things that are going into curriculums and syllabi, both from teeny tiny children all the way up to university and PhD levels.
Well, there was another story as well I didn't put in here, but there was a father complaining, I believe it was in the state of California, saying he can't make his son a doctor's appointment. They've passed legislation where the child has to make the appointment himself because of medical rights and freedoms now. They want to extend to younger and younger people.
Especially for Gen Z that don't like it to even pick up the phone. That's going to be fun.
Well, this gets into PDF files and things like this when you start lowering the age of
medical consent.
Medical consent.
And any other kind of consent as well. We saw it also with the mutilation or transitioning of children who there are no transgender children, in my opinion. But part of the reason why they think they are is because they're in a school system that tells them so. That tells them you're in the wrong body. If you feel slightly uncomfortable or like dolls, then that means you're a girl, not a boy.
Okay, let's get into the last story in health and MAHA here, and then we'll go into, we got a couple of religious stories.
From Nicholas Hosher, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and his husband are funding the creation of genetically engineered babies, because of course they are. By merging AI with CRISPR, they aim to fix humans while offshoring early embryo testing to evade oversight. First iterations of GMO children will endure immense suffering. Zuccharo et al. Already tested CRISPR gene edits on real human embryos.
You can just, he'll explain it here.
This appears to be Dr. Frankenstein coming back from the dead, back from the 1800s. So what's happening is Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, and his husband have poured in millions of dollars to Preventive. This is a startup that seeks to edit the genes of embryos, human embryos, and make GMO babies. They claim this is to prevent heritable genetic diseases, but this is the start of the path that leads to designer babies and attempting to play God.
All right. Is this even legal to do in the United States?
No, it's currently illegal to do this in live human embryos that go on to develop, but we have to remember they have already tested this in the past decade on real, on human embryos in the test tube. And what's happened in a study in 2020 by Zuccharo and colleagues, published in the journal Cell, they did use CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing on a human embryo, and it caused catastrophic mutations. The embryo started to divide, and it was missing entire chromosomes. It was a disaster. And so, and all the human tests, or all the animal testing they've done using this tech, it's resulted in disastrous mutations, deformities, missing limbs. This is a disaster.
Okay, that's good there. And they need to start focusing on like promoting a family the natural way amongst human beings, and adoption.
Starting with a mother and a father.
And an adoption is a good option as well. I mean, this is just a totally different path of thinking. I do not support it in any way, shape, or form on so many levels here. So,
I mean, starting from the whole mother and father actual family bond that should be promoted, but also I've spoken over and over again against IVF and against the practices that put the parents instead of the child first, and the creation of a child as a thing to benefit the parents and not as a child receiving a loving family that will. But now with gene editing and insanity like Sam Altman is trying to do, and he's a very shady, nebulous character, a lot of people have been ended because of things they exposed about him. But with this, it's even... actually, I'll say just do it and see what kind of thing comes out.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't know the conversation of transhumanism. We talk about it once in a while, but it's really one of those things. The elites, big money billionaires and stuff, keep in the background and try to silently push towards. It's something we really need to keep an eye on and push back against. And this story goes right into transhumanism. And I think that's their ultimate agenda. And this is another reason why I think we need to generally push back against robotics in a big way. Not robotics.
Transhumanism.
Not robotics as in manufacturing, but like humanoid robots.
And transhumanism.
Yeah. That's why I said transhumanism.
Yeah, I know, but
okay,
that's the main thing I think that we should push back against. Rafa says, eats a bug. But Rafa, you and I are Mexican. We know that we do eat bugs here, and they're not that bad. But I always have this fight with Guy about eating bugs, because here in Mexico, at least I do eat like ant eggs, and I do like, what are they called? Worms? But they're not worms. Crickets, worms. They're not bad in tacos.
But I mean,
I wouldn't force it upon people.
They thought they had so much elite capture of all the institutions that they were going to be able to push all these crazy policies. And I mean, Davos, not this year, but previous years, they would just come out and say these things and say, we're going to demand people do this by having the levers of power and pushing it on people. And they literally thought they were going to do it. Now there's a little bit of pushback with Trump, but like I'm saying, if Trump, whoever's supposed to take over after Trump doesn't come in 2028, or even if he doesn't win the midterms, they're not going to put a lot of his executive orders into legislation. And so they're not going to really stick. And then the globalists will be in even a better position because Trump literally shook up the game board when he was in office. And that could really benefit the globalists in the long run.
And Rafa says they want his peasants to eat Soylent Green. Soylent Green, people. Yeah, probably it is. But exactly. And the worst part is there is actually a product now that they called Soylent. Which that should terrify people.
What was that? Was from 1984?
No, it's from, I believe it's called Soylent Green.
Oh, okay. Because I was thinking that's kind of like the food they were eating on, what's that train movie we were watching that one time?
What train movie?
Where the peasants start at the back of the train, and as you go each car up.
Oh, that's from a book. That's a book that they made into a TV series. That one. Yeah.
Snowpiercer. Yeah, Snowpiercer was very good. The movie was anyway.
Ethel says, everyone immigrant in Mexico should eat crickets and respect the local culture. Looking at Guy. He just doesn't like it.
I didn't mind they put the crickets in some salsa we had one time when we went out and they did it tableside. Yeah, it was really good, but typically I just won't eat it.
They just taste salty.
Yeah, but it's just what's going on in my head as I'm eating it.
Okay, but let's move on. What's next? I don't even know.
Well, and it's one thing to tell people to eat the crickets or eat the bugs and have these massive cricket farms, or you're simultaneously creating policies to take away the meat.
Yes, exactly.
Like, if you want people to eat the crickets, just give them both options. Maximize freedom for people. That's what I'm about.
Now let's move on to religion.
Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God.
And just two stories here in religion. First one is insane and angering, and I already watched this clip, but you should watch it too if you haven't seen it. From Resist the Mainstream, quote, watch Jennifer Welch labels white evangelical Christianity as cancer, saying they're the worst people in the country.
Maybe she's only half cancer because she's only white. Maybe she's not Christian, so that makes her half the cancer? Or
so when you think about the Erica Kirks, the Life Church, the Joel Osteen of it all, and their desire to accumulate wealth while hoodwinking their flock into thinking they're super moral, this is a cancer. White evangelical Christianity is a cancer. These are the worst of our country. These are the worst people in our country because they use their religion in two ways, as a weapon and as a shield. They weaponize it whenever they want to and say, we're on the moral high ground. You're a lesbian. You deserve to die. You're a lesbian. The cops shouldn't have revived you. Oh, your parents are Mexicans and they brought you over here. Yeah, you should go to jail and eat worm food. And then when you call them out on it, oh my God, they're after the Christians. How dare they? How dare they? We're so oppressed. White Christians are so oppressed in this country. And they want it both ways because in the religion, that duplicity is taught. You can be morally duplicitous. You thrive in cognitive dissonance. And so this is just a massive, massive problem. And it should come as no surprise to anyone that of this cult that I'm talking about, white evangelicals, I think over 80% went and voted triple Trumped.
Triple Trumped. And I'll say
also,
this,
like, holy buccal fat removal.
this is confession through projection. A lot of people are starting to see through woke liberalism, and they realize it is a religion. And just how they were saying Christianity was being weaponized in that way, that's exactly how the woke, the religion of the woke was propagated to the people, and they virtue signaled and used it as a shield at the same time. They know exactly how these things work because they're the ones doing it.
But I will say, not to give any credence to what that crazy lady was saying, but I will say there are instances where churches have been infiltrated, especially by the woke, and we have continued to, warn against this, where there are some churches where they're just preaching the same woke religion, just now actually under the mantle of religion, and some of them do take advantage of their flock.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it quite a bit. You can have like mega churches that are really just taking money from people. That happens quite often in the United States. I've been to some mega churches, but then you also have these woke churches now that are even more deceivious because they're not just going to empty your wallets; they're going to put a false ideology in your head. Yeah, so I like much more smaller independent churches. Okay, let's go into remigration now, and we got 3 stories here, I think.
Oh, you want to skip that one? Okay. Rafa
Oh,
said,
wait, no, we had one more story in,
I know.
religion.
Rafa, I'll read your comment right after this. From Lips of TikTok, and this is a sad and insane story. A man was walking his dog in Washington. Some lunatic walked up to him and asked what religion he was. He said Christian, and the lunatic stabbed him and his dog, who are now both in the hospital. The suspect was ended by police, violently resisting arrest.
At a corner store just up the street. The stabbing happened at the SS Quick Stop grocery store. Pierce County deputies say the victim told officers that the suspect asked what religion he was, and when he said he was a Christian, the suspect reportedly stabbed him and his dog. Both were taken to hospitals in serious condition, and deputies say the dog went into emergency surgery. Deputies were searching for the suspect then for more than 2 hours after he ran from the stabbing scene. He was spotted by deputies around 8:40 a.m. who made contact with the suspect in a house's backyard. Armed with multiple knives, officers say the suspect was resisting arrest and made movements toward deputies. He was then shot by multiple deputies. Police say he was later pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. Now the Pierce County Force investigation team is handling the scene.
To collect
at a corner store.
And the fact that he went after the dog just makes it that much more egregious.
I hope they recover, both of them. And I mean, good on the cops for actually taking out the insane person. But again, we were just talking about guns. I mean, this also happens with knives and crazy people. So crazy people will always find a way to kill you.
Well, and that's the thing. If you take away people's guns, they're just going to have knives, and then the government's going to want to take away knives. That's what they're doing in China now. That's what they're trying to do in the UK. They're starting to have a restrictive knife policy in the UK. In Canada, they were trying to pass a bill in BC where you couldn't have yard clippers because
but then there's screwdrivers and this and that and plastic knives. Like anything could be a weapon.
You're creating a nanny state at that point.
Rafa says, yeah, I love crickets. I know, they're good. They're salty, they're crunchy. People think it's going to be like squishy. There's some countries in Asia that make them like squishy because they boil them or they do them differently. Here they're just hollow, so it's just like a crunchy thing. It's not gross.
You sound like Klaus Schwab.
No, I don't.
Just eat the bugs.
Just try the bugs at least.
I tried them. I didn't want them.
Ethel says.
Give me my steak.
Ethel says, guy is refusing to integrate. On Friday, I'm going to bring crickets and make him eat them.
I already tried them once. I didn't want them. On stream, don't force it on me.
But it's good content. Ethel also says churches were full PDF way before wokeism. Let's not forget they have been the leaders and pioneers. And I think there's that misconception that we always talk about too with that talking point.
Well, yeah, and before I actually looked into the statistics, I was very, very hard on churches. After I looked into the statistics of PDF files in churches. PDF files are going to go wherever kids are at. That's obvious. That's why you have a lot of them in public schools. And then when I looked at the public schools versus the religious schools, it was 10 to 20 times higher depending on what region you looked at. But it was a lot higher in public schools than in religious schools. So although there's going to be some in both because that's where children are at, so that's where the PDF files are going to go. They never really talk about the problem they have in public schools, and that's where it's at. I'm talking per capita, not just the cases.
And Disneyland and anywhere where these disgusting people can find what they're looking for too.
Yeah, and it's nothing to be excused in any way, shape, or form. And yeah.
Maps belong on the wall. That's all I'm going to say. Hold on. Ethel says, who was writing the statistics guy? You can't expect reporters to report themselves.
What was it? What was that on?
Ethel says, who was writing the statistics guy about this? You can't expect reporters to report themselves. I mean that too. But let's move on to...
But I originally heard those statistics from Andrew Wilson through The Crucible, but then I looked into them and it was actually shocking because nobody had ever brought up that talking point. And I just assumed...
I mean, if you look at the Disneyland, Disney World statistics, those are insane too.
Yeah, but they keep them under wraps. That's the thing.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to remigration. Hold on. Yes, remigration.
The immigration policies in Europe are a disaster. You're destroying Europe. You're destroying the culture of Europe.
And we're starting off with the article I was kind of talking about all day, I guess.
Yeah, okay. From the Megyn Kelly show. No, I used to like her. Now she's too much of a feminist for me. The Trump admin has offered illegal aliens a plane ticket and $2,600 to go back to their country of origin.
These guys are not valid asylum seekers. He said to all of you, that's done. I'm not honoring that. Get out. He said, you can use the CBP app. We will give you a plane ticket for you and your family to go back to your country of origin, and we'll also give you $2,600. And on top of that, if you go through this app to depart and take this deal, we will treat you as though you've never done anything unlawful or you've never even tried to get here the next time you properly attempt. All of that has been offered to this man and his son, but Trump somehow is the demon. Homan is the demon. ICE is the demon. It's a lie. It's a manipulation. These guys are not.
Yeah, and that policy really needs to get out there, and then you really need to pump up that policy and show that they're giving options. So when ICE comes and gets them, they gave them another option before ICE came. They're telling people ICE is coming and they're going to arrest illegal immigrants, especially if you have a criminal record. But there's another option. If you want to take the other option, you can. A lot of people have at this point.
And as Steven Crowder has said over and over again, like, if you break into my house and the worst thing I did was give you a ride home and give you some cash. I mean, if you make that comparison, then
overall, I think it's a good policy. But it's only a good policy, though, as long as the conservative is in office. Because what happens if you spend $1 billion or $10 billion in getting rid of illegals, and then the next administration gets in there and just opens up the border again?
Yep. Speaking of spending, from Chief Nerd, quote, Dr. Oz says a new audit found California charged the federal government over $1.5 billion for free healthcare for illegals.
Let's talk about illegal immigrants. So Gavin Newsom was giving us a hard time for threatening the health insurance of illegal immigrants. Just to be very transparent, if you're on Medicare, you don't get free dental, you don't get free vision. You do if you're an illegal immigrant in California.
This is the infuriating
part. Anyway, so you got taxpayers in New Mexico, right, which is a blue state but a poor state, paying extra tax dollars to the federal government that are recycled back into LA to deal with the fraud that I'm talking about. So illegal immigrants, he's mad. We're horrible people. We're Republicans. You have no conscience. You have no heart. As soon as we made it clear we were no longer going to pay for illegal immigrants in California, what did he do? He took them off Med-Cal. Now, he didn't take them off. He took them on the federal side. So, in theory, only emergency services are going to get paid for illegal immigrants in California, which is a national law.
And it's reasonable.
Reasonable. Now, we want babies delivered, car accident victims.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course, get health care, but not elective hernia surgery, cataracts. You know, you have to be an American citizen who paid into the system to get these. So, anyway, so we deal with this. Gavin says we're only going to pay for illegal immigrants through our own state-based system. We've audited him now. This data is coming out this week. We have now found over $1.5 billion of money spent wrongly. We've audited it. They're not even arguing. $1.5 billion from that California charged the federal government for illegal immigrants that they're not allowed to pay charges for. They have to pay for it themselves. He's not happy, but they're paying us because they know we're right. So you're going to see something happen very interesting in California. As soon as the money is being paid by California government officials, they're going to start getting more serious about this. And that's why it's so important for us to say, we're not into this anymore. I'm not going to let taxpayers in Alabama and Mississippi, New Mexico, our poorest states.
And that's the big thing. You need to make sure only citizens are getting the benefits from tax money. I'll also say I used to hate Dr. Oz, especially when he was running for Congress, especially if you watch his speeches. They were so contrived because I think he was so used to reading off a teleprompter and, let's get ready for commercial break. It just never looked authentic. But now when he's talking, he looks a lot more like a politician a bit.
For me, it's
more
funny.
Direct.
Yeah, but for me, it's funny that both him and what's the name of the other guy? The psychologist, or
Dr. Phil.
Yeah, Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz both came up under Oprah.
Oprah, yeah.
That's insane. And I'm glad there's more and more stuff coming out about Oprah and again, and what she's done and what she's been able to cover up and the relationships she's had over the years with bad people.
Yeah, I always thought she was going to make a run
Yeah, we
politics.
actually kind of said, that might happen, but...
Yeah, I think
There's too much.
I don't think so now. But then again, Newsom's running.
Okay, moving on.
And then this is the last article for remigration here.
Post. From Gina Milan, quote, this is wild. The guest on Sean Ryan's podcast says police in Maine have 0 DOA reports involving Somalis. There are roughly 100,000 Somalis in the community. People die every day from natural causes, heart attacks, strokes, yet there's no record of it.
And this is a huge problem, and not just in the community in Minnesota, but this is a huge problem in China. When we're talking about hundreds of millions of people in China, when their parents die, they typically bury them in the backyard, and they want to keep collecting government benefits because they are so poor.
Have you ever looked at cardiac arrests involving Somalis? It's like, I kind of grokked what she was getting to, and I was like, you mean like, are Somalis dying of natural causes and being reported? And she was like, yeah. She's like, I was talking with Minneapolis police officers, and none of them ever remember responding to a cardiac arrest, aneurysm, stroke of a older Somali person. You're just looking at the actuarial tables. You would think 100,000 people out there, the odds say that some of them are going to have heart attacks, they're going to die, and then the police or the emergency services are going to be called to respond. None of the police officers ever remember going to a Somali DOA. And so I go to some of my sources in the Lewiston Police Department and ask, do you remember ever responding to Somali DOA's cardiac events? Like, they start laughing. Like, you know, we were just talking about this at the station, and no one really remembers responding to Somali DOAs. So what's happening? You know, based on that sample, you know, it's not totally scientific, but we know there's some natural deaths happening from medical events within the Somali community that are not being reported to the state, to the medical authorities, to EMS. Now, why is that? So what happens if grandma's got subsidized senior housing and EBT card and Medicaid benefits, and you report that she's passed away? Okay, so those benefits get shut off. Everybody can understand, yeah, you just keep the benefits going. This is how you end up with Social Security, or more so the EBT cards, benefits going to dead people. But what are they doing with the bodies?
That's what I was going to ask.
What are they doing with the bodies?
Okay, you can leave it there. And this is a much bigger problem in China, but the fact that it's now rising in Minnesota, and there could be multiple reasons for that, especially if you're running a money laundering scam, which we know is happening in the Somali community. If you're running that scam through a dead person, even if that dead person is busted, there's nobody to prosecute.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's go into U.S.
We do have some comments.
Oh, yeah, let's go into it.
Say hello to Ron, who says hello, Nat.
Oh,
and
good
the
to see
guy,
you.
Ron, is from at Follow the Bradley's Fun, so go follow the Bradley's Fun over there as well. Thank you for being here. Ron also says maybe the number of those is just really Somali.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole what are they doing with the bodies? That's the
Well, there was a
part.
huge investigation done on China, and I think the report, I can't remember, it's 1.2 or 1.4 billion, but some people are estimating it can be as low as 500 million people in that country.
in people's backyards.
No, not just people's backyards, but the people don't report the deaths of their relatives because they want to keep gathering the benefits, but also the government doesn't want to report deaths because they want to look like they have a much larger market to other countries.
Well, Ron might have an idea. Ron says, what are they doing with the bodies? Dog and cat food. And they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. So it's a circle of life.
Well, it's funny because there's a vet clinic we drive by sometimes, kind of in our neighborhood, and there's a barbecue store next door.
There's a barbacoa store next to it.
And then there's all these stray dogs that are in the middle of the street.
So
I make fun of
that
it.
might be where they're getting it. But I don't like it, but barbacoa is good. So if you're ever in Mexico or have a chance to taste it, make sure it's not dog, but it should be goat.
Oh, but when I used to live in California with my grandmother, she used to love this little Mexican shop on the corner. Go there every day. She loved it. Talked about it anytime we would come over. She said, I'm going to get the Mexican food. Okay. And then she's like, I'm like, what? It's been a while since we had that Mexican food. And she goes, oh, they shut it down. I go, oh, they shut it down. She goes, yeah, I got it shut down. I guess she bought a burrito one day, bit into it. There was something hard, so she took it out. It was like that big. It was pretty big. It was an inch. She sent it in to get tested. It ended up being an animal tooth. So the government came in and shut the place down after. It was a dog tooth, not just an animal tooth. But
I mean, there are cultures that eat dog, but Mexico might eat dog, but you just don't know you're eating dog. And Ron says,
as long as I don't know I'm eating it and I'm okay with it. Like,
well, you get sick just smelling off milk.
Well, you're trying to feed me crickets. If I don't know it's crickets, maybe I'm okay with it.
Okay, I'll make it into powder, and then on Friday I'll say, taste this powder. It's chili powder. Ron also says, ooh, that would be a little rough. Yeah. Poor dogs. Don't eat dogs. Okay, and I read the RU and BLE ones. So now we can move on to
U.S.
the
politics.
U.S., which is short because we already
Yeah, surprisingly,
basically did all the
Minnesota was most of the politics. So I think we got 4 stories in the U.S. politics, which is different because usually we have 20 stories there.
Oh, no, we're laggy. Sorry. I'm waiting for it to go back to not being laggy. Okay. US. Oh, hold on. Quickly, I'll read from Ron just because it has to do with this story. Ron says, supposedly there was a mouse head found in some meat at Golden Corral in Florida a few years back. It's more common than I think people know. I don't remember how many bugs are allowed to be in a chocolate bar just because of the production process and drying in the cocoa beans outside, for example, or animals getting in. And yes, for example, in the US, it is like major news. Here
it's whatever.
In Mexico, it's we eat tamales from the street and you never know what's in those.
Yeah, whatever.
We've survived this long. Okay, let's go to the US. And sorry if we're a bit laggy. Do let me know if it gets too much because I think my computer is struggling a little bit.
Okay.
But let's start with this story.
That's what happens when you leave it open all day from editing. You have to
it's not. It's
close
the
it.
internet. From National Conservative quote, Palantir, it's because I'm editing, I'm working. Palantir CEO Alex Karp, a self-described progressive, tells the far-left BlackRock CEO Larry Fink that mass immigration is incompatible with advances in AI.
Well, and this is huge when you're having big tech, big banking. A lot of people at Davos are actually coming around to the realization that immigration might not be compatible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not to diverge into my usual political screeds, but there will be more than enough jobs for the citizens of your nation, especially those with vocational training. I do think these trends really do make it hard to imagine why we should have large-scale immigration unless you have a very specialized skill. You know, not to diverge into my usual.
Oh, and that was the shorter clip. He actually went into it.
Because I'd seen a clip where
he talks about the future of the United States and just general countries, that you need less immigration because of robotics and AI. And yeah.
They want to get rid of people one way or another.
Okay, let's go into California homelessness now.
From Stella Escobedo, California's homeless industrial complex. How did Skid Row in Los Angeles turn into 50 blocks? And this happens.
And yeah, this is huge. It goes on for miles and miles and miles, and it's filled with gang members, open fires, just tents line the street. It's
when you used to live
crazy.
there, was it that bad?
No, it wasn't like that when I used to live there. And the Skid Row actually in Vancouver is probably just as bad or worse. But the thing is, homelessness is subsidized, so it's a little less violent, but it looks a lot worse. But again, it's only like 3 or 4 blocks in Vancouver.
East Hastings is pretty long now.
No, not with the tents though.
But then they went all over the city as well during the 2020.
It's not like California, believe me.
Yes, I know.
I went to U.S.A. Skid Row used to be just a row. Sheriff, let's be honest, Skid Row is no longer a row. It's an entire community. They let people do drugs. There's zombies everywhere. San Francisco, Tenderloin. Some people would call this a homeless industrial complex. You have more homeless people in the state of California than any other state in the nation.
There's more here per capita than anywhere else either. The real numbers are true. California is the hotbed of the country for homelessness, far more than anywhere else. The Los Angeles and the San Francisco are the hubs of that, and it's arguably 2 of the greatest marvel cities in the entire world have been absolutely destroyed and basically relegated to third world country status in those downtown areas because of a failed government. And you mentioned this homeless industrial complex. That is absolutely real. This is a business. They don't want that fixed. They want it worse so they can generate more money to it, so there are more of their friends getting rich. And this is what we're finding out now. This is not Chad Bianco having to say this. We are all learning how this is working with Minneapolis, and now Los Angeles is going to make Minneapolis just a tiny little speck on the map, because the fraud and the abuse and the misuse and the embezzlements here is just absolutely massive. But the $24 billion, that's just state money. The city of Los Angeles is $2 billion a year. So over that 5-year period, there's another $10 billion. So we're at $35 billion to make it worse.
You can leave it there. And that being said, this is going to be Gavin Newsom's weak point. This is the second case of massive fraud. The first was medical, and now it's the homeless industrial complex. Everybody knows there's something really hiding there. They need to uncover it. hopefully well before 2028. They need to start now, like they went into Minnesota. They need to start going into California. I'm starting to expose Gavin Newsom on a regular basis. I used to live in that state. I absolutely despise him. I think he is so good at lying. I mean, like Tucker said the other day, his pulse just doesn't change. And if he gets in 2028, all those good policies that Trump did, even though I can be hard on him at times, all those good policies he did are going to go bye-bye.
But also, I think because he's able, and it's so obvious all the ways in which he has destroyed the state, if the right people know how to debunk him essentially during a debate and just in general during a campaign, that could also destroy him. I think you're giving him too much credit.
I don't think I am, because if you look at what's happening in Minnesota, they have a resistance movement, or they want a color revolution, but the big dollars actually lie in California. And if the ICE tries to go into California like they did Minnesota, it's going to be a mistake. Gavin Newsom is going to have firepower for the 2028 elections. That's why I think Trump needs to go into California forensically, go in there with Doge, go in there with the IRS, go in there online, uncover everything through the paper trail and through the tax trail. He doesn't need to be putting ICE agents in the street of California. That could turn out wrong and really elevate Gavin Newsom to a status he doesn't really need right now, or that I don't want him to have right now.
Okay, now moving on to Kaiser Permanente, I guess. From Wall Street Apes, Kaiser comes to a settlement and agrees to pay $556 million for the alleged manipulating data through the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to receive more Medicare benefits and more money.
Okay, you can just play it.
Okay.
We've got some breaking news here at Interrhythm Media. California may be responsible for over $4 billion in healthcare and hospice fraud. Just about a week ago, there was a settlement announced by Kaiser to pay $556 million for the alleged overdiagnosing and manipulating data through the CMS to receive more Medicare benefits and more money. In 2023, the CMS improper payment rate for health claims was 7.7%, or approximately $1.2 billion. In a complaint filed in the Northern District of California in 2021, the United States alleged that Kaiser engaged in a scheme in California and Colorado. Specifically, the United States alleged that Kaiser systematically pressured its physicians to alter medical records after patient visits, add diagnoses that the physicians had not considered or addressed at those visits.
Okay, you can leave it there. And I just wanted to bring up another case of California fraud. Now, this one has to do with California and Colorado, both blue states. You okay?
Yeah.
What happened?
Nothing. Continue. My back hurts.
California, I think, is just ready for an audit. They should be going in there. They need to go in there hard, not with ICE agents, but with IRS agents.
Yes, sorry.
And they need to really figure out how they're going to disseminate this information after they expose this fraud. They really wanted to do it in a consumer-friendly way to get the maximum impact here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Trump knows how to put ICE agents on the front page. Hopefully, he's going to know how to put scandals when these IRS agents start digging into these things.
And hopefully they don't. I mean, while I think Nick Shirley did a pretty great job exposing what was happening in Minnesota, I think after the fact, it hasn't been handled as well. And I don't know if, yes, initially take the information from Nick Shirley, but then use it to turn it into something actually actionable and bigger and that you can continue to give updates on. And I think they kind of missed the mark a little bit on that.
Well, and I don't necessarily think, like, there's a lot of questions coming up around Nick Shirley. I like his reporting. I like who he is. That being said, just have the IRS go in there and say the IRS did it and then expose it. It almost seemed like the government sends somebody to Nick Shirley to make it look like it was more organic than it was. Okay, and let's go into the last, and this is going to be Wisconsin voter rolls, I believe. You have very little to say today.
Well, no, I didn't. I talked a lot before.
Well, you got tired after we started fighting.
Well, no, my back started hurting. From Wall Street Apes, quote, swing state Wisconsin voter rolls show they have 7.14 million people registered to vote, but only 4 million adults that live in the state. Again, Wisconsin has lost almost twice as many registered voters versus adults who live there.
Yeah, and again, we just showed that other story where individuals in a certain community just weren't reporting deaths. But I think government in certain states really aren't motivated to keep their voter registration and records.
And we saw
solid.
in Minnesota, we just saw that video of the AG saying, oh, it's because we don't want them to get the voter rolls and the voter information.
It gets to the problem that we only have 4 million adults in the state of Wisconsin. So we're approaching, and the 7.13 million number on the voter rolls, that grows almost daily. It never ends. It rarely goes down. It drops slightly when they sent out the 4-year postcards, and then it shot right back up, and it's the highest that I've ever seen. And it's even worse than this because there's the 4 million adults in Wisconsin. Not all of them register, not all of them vote. We're really down around about 3.6 million, 3.7 million. It gets to the problem.
Yeah, and you wonder how voter rolls change in the middle of the night. I mean, yeah. And it's going to be interesting what happens in 2028 because Trump was claiming election fraud in 2020, and the Democrats always like to say, well, there was 20 cases brought and there was nothing found there. No, they were all thrown out because of latches. They said they should have brought the case before the election, not after. How are you going to bring it before the election when there's no fraud then? And when they did try to bring it before the election, there was a couple cases. They said they need to wait to bring it after. So you can't win for losing on this thing, but the Supreme Court now ruled you can bring a lot of these cases, but they're not going to retroactively let people bring cases. So 2028 is going to be the first year that you're going to really be able to go after voter fraud. So this could cause a lot of confusion in the election, depending how that thing goes down.
And, from Ron or Follow the Bradley's fan says, as long as they're covered in chocolate, it's fine for bugs. They do make cricket chocolates, funnily enough.
Yeah.
And there you can't really taste them, I think. And Ron says it happens. And, that we were laggy. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's might be the internet or the stream, not sure. But it seems to be fine now. It's not telling me it's angry, at least. And Ron says, what is with his hair? Whose hair?
My hair?
His hair, or was it Dr. Oz?
Maybe Dr. Oz. I don't know. Let's go into the EU.
Okay, now we're going over to the EU while we try to figure whose hair. And yes, Europe. Still kind of reeling from Davos and the WEF. But from Disclosed TV, it says, quote, NATO Chief Rutte. If anyone thinks here again that the European Union or Europe as a whole can defend itself without the US, keep on dreaming. So
yeah, it was a half-honest statement, but I don't know if you got the second half quite right.
So when President Trump is doing good stuff, I will praise him. And I don't mind him publishing text messages. And if anyone thinks here, again, that the European Union or Europe as a whole can defend itself without the US, keep on dreaming. You can't. We can't. We need each other. And why do we need each other? I tell you. First of all, because also the US needs NATO. And the US is not only in NATO to prevent the mistake after the First World War, not to re-engage with Europe. And then again, the long arm of history reaching out to the US again in the Second World War, as Churchill famously said in his speech in 1941 in the US Congress. They are also in NATO because for the US to stay safe, and by the way, Arctic region is evidence here, they need a secure Arctic, they need a secure Euro-Atlantic, and they also need a secure Europe. So the US has every interest in NATO as much as Canada and the European NATO allies. But for Europe, if you really want to go it alone, and those of you who are pleading for that, forget that you can ever get there with 5%. It will be 10%. You have to build up your own nuclear capability. That costs billions and billions of euros. You will lose then, in that scenario, you would lose the ultimate guarantor of our freedom, which is the US nuclear umbrella. So, hey, good luck.
Okay, you can leave it there. That being said, I mean, Europe is just so ignorant. Everybody knows why the United States created NATO, and there's been documents released on that. It was to keep Russia out, Germany down, and the United States in. If the United States pulls out of Europe, it's going to create it should create an alliance between Europe and Russia, and it would create a superpower possibly that could rival or be bigger than China and the United States. The reason the United States is in Europe is to keep Russia and Europe divided. Russia has all the raw minerals. They have all the energy Europe needs. Europe knows how to manufacture those raw minerals to finish goods like cars and things like that. It's a natural alliance, and the United States knows that. That's why they want to keep them apart. Okay, let's go into
We
the
also talked about how NATO has just stopped making sense nowadays. Same as the UN. Like these organizations that were created after the shocks and panics of World War I, World War II, and then the aftermath and the Cold War, etc. In the multipolar world that we're seeing, maybe no longer makes sense, but nobody wants to fully admit that.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially they don't want to defend their own countries too.
A lot of people in Europe feels like they're being betrayed by Trump. I think Trump is trying to make them stronger and get them to stand on their own 2 feet. They've taken too much from the United States, and they haven't built up in that time, meaning they had a near free military. They didn't have to invest much money, and they created a welfare state rather than a self-sufficient state. But there's a lot of people in Europe now that they're feeling they're being betrayed. So they're looking at the geopolitical board, and they realize even if all those little nations combine, they're not going to be a superpower. And there's a lot of talk about can they get over with their differences with Russia and actually become an alliance, because they both kind of need each other. Russia would be the third superpower, but they're not quite America and China at all. But with Europe, they would be. Okay, let's go into the next article here.
An insane story, but expected,
this is crazy.
sadly. From Basil the Great, quote, the UK government to make banter illegal. Bars and pub staff will be expected to report people to the police if they overhear conversations, remarks, comments, or jokes that an employee may find offensive.
Yeah, and this came up a while ago, but it's slowly making itself through the legislation. So I just kind of wanted to bring it up again to remind people.
My Lords, I declare my interest as the Director of the Free Speech Union, and I congratulate the 4 new members on their excellent speeches. I want to draw your Lordship's House attention to just one section of the Employment Rights Act and its impact on the hospitality sector, namely Section 21, which extends the liability of employers for the harassment of their employees to third parties. From October of this year, employers will have a duty to protect their workers from third parties. I should make clear that we're not talking about third-party sexual harassment, which they were already liable for, but third-party non-sexual harassment. And what does that mean for the hospitality sector? It means employers will have to take all reasonable steps, those are the words in the Act, to protect their employees from harassment by customers. That might not sound too onerous until you factor in that harassment includes indirect harassment, which has been defined by the Employment Tribunal as including overheard conversations, remarks, comments, jokes that an employee may find offensive or upsetting in virtue of their protected characteristics. And it's for that reason that the Free Speech Union has been referring to Section 21 as the banter ban. A couple of weeks ago, the government quietly released a 40-page impact assessment about Section 21 that says it's likely to cost the owners of small businesses $23.7 million to familiarize
Okay, and you can leave it
themselves with
there.
their new
And the amount
legal
of regulation going in and the amount of regulation on speech is crazy. They still claim that they have free speech. It's obvious at this point this isn't the case. And the only reason you're not hearing the people in the EU and the UK say they don't have free speech is because they're not allowed to say they don't have free speech.
And it's funny because earlier today, I think it was, I was telling Rafa that I don't think the UK would ever allow us to go in. And he said, oh, you shouldn't want to because it's disgusting and horrible anyways. And yes, I mean, London, but also a lot of little towns have allowed themselves to be destroyed both by the government, but also by the migrants that are coming in. And the people don't seem, and it's reminiscent of what I saw in Vancouver, where the people are just blah, except the few people that do go to the protests and did go to the, what was it called? The UK...
Raise the flag.
To all the Raise the Flag events and that are trying to do something. But now we're even seeing reform kind of kowtow to the same things that they said they were against.
Yeah, it's nice to see at least as the United States is conservative right now, that Central and South America are really turning towards the right wing. I just hope when the Democrats get back in there, you don't see another pink wave through Latin America. Okay, let's go into Latin America now, and then we'll hit Rumble Up after that.
Okay.
Just because it is getting a little late.
I have to find it. Hold on.
The first story we have in Latin America was actually shocking to me. I've talked about the Brazilian election quite a bit. It's coming up later this year. First, we're going to have the Colombian election, which is expected to swing right. But Lula is one of the strongest politicians in South America, and he's backed by China and Russia. There's big money behind him. He's consolidated a lot of power within Brazil. He's had a lot of social media bans, speech bans. So I thought he was going to be an impossible candidate to win, but it looks like the tides are really turning against him. I have a feeling there's a lot of U.S. money coming in there backing the alternative candidate, which I'm more than okay with. That being said, let's get into the first article in it.
There we go.
And it looks like it's lagging a little bit, but that's okay.
Oh, my whole computer is lagging. From Santiago Daily News, Brazil has woken up. Moraes and Lula can squirm all they want, but nobody can hold back the Brazilian people anymore. We also recently showed a poll that showed Bolsonaro leading.
Yeah, Bolsonaro was leading.
New Bolsonaro.
The new Bolsonaro is leading Lula 48-42, which was shocking. And there's been major rallies all across Brazil supporting Bolsonaro. So this was expected to be an easy left-wing victory, but now it's looking like it might swing right. I really hope so. The crown jewels of Latin America are really Brazil and Mexico. If Brazil goes right-wing and then whoever's going to take over from Trump wins in the United States, my guess is Mexico is going to go right-wing as well. Okay, and that's good. And there's a lot of clips from around Brazil kind of showing a lot of these rallies. And I just wanted to kind of show it to give a little bit of support or credence to those polls that came out the other day. Because when the polls first came out, I said, I don't know if you can trust a poll. Lula's really expected to blow out that election. And it really looks like something might be happening from the grassroots there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There we go. Sorry. Because you messed me up with your jumping around. Hold on.
Okay, the next story is going to be in Mexico.
Yes, for Marinafel or Nufel or whatever the name is, Mexico becomes first in Latin America to operate C-130J-30 Super Hercules, the most advanced Hercules ever built, 15 extra feet of cargo space for tactical missions. The timing is interesting. Trump's been pressuring Mexico to deal with the cartels or he'll do it for them. This might be Washington giving them the tools to handle it themselves.
Yeah, and originally there was these planes spotted landing at the Mexican airport. Sheinbaum said, who's the president of Mexico, said, no, they're just dropping something off. Now it looks like those...
No, she said they were picking stuff up.
Now it looks like those planes are actually given to Mexico, or Mexico bought them, most likely given. If they want to run operations against the cartels, this is the exact kind of equipment you would need to bring in major vehicles and stuff like that in the middle of the night. The United States can't run a lot of these missions in Mexico without looking like they're stepping on Mexico's sovereignty. So it looks like behind the scenes, Sheinbaum's cooperating, but on the surface, she's pushing back and saying that she's not. I think that's definitely not the case. I'm losing my words now. Oh, you can leave it. It's just... Oh, play it. And they got a couple of those planes now. So,
because it's funny how much they tried to hide it, but I don't know.
Well, she's waiting until 2028. If the Democrats win in 2028, she's going to reclaim her sovereignty. We're never helping the United States. Let's flood the border again. But if a conservative wins, she's going to come out and say we've openly been helping them, because that's going to help her election, which would be in 2030. She can say, well, I've been fighting crime.
But lately, I mean, we did see her squirm when asked both about the plane that landed, but also about the cooperation from those 39 cartel members that were captured by Mexican authorities, but also, funnily enough, at the same time that the plane was doing stuff in a bunch of different U.S. military, both planes and maybe operations were happening right where they captured them. So, God, this. Speaking of Sheinbaum and her idiocy. From Clash Report, quote, Mexican President Sheinbaum says that the idea that Spain arrived to civilize is a very old 16th century vision. Our vision is that Spain invaded this territory and that the conquest was very violent. Those great cultures must be recognized for their resistance and what they represent today for Mexico. And all the way back since AMLO, so her predecessor, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, was doing his campaign, but also during his presidency, he kept bringing up and going on this whole thing where he talked about the conquest of Spain and that they were invading the country and how terrible it was. Then he started demanding that Spain return some artifacts to Mexico, and there was this huge international diplomatic thing that went on between Mexico and the Spanish government with the fight back and forth between should we get the items back, should we not? But it's this very clear oppressor-oppressed dichotomy that they're trying to bring up within the Mexican people while not being truthful about the way that the historical facts that happened about the Spaniards getting and landing in Latin America.
She's trying to lay the ground for wokeness in Mexico. Trump's keeping her in check right now because he holds all the levers. And if she goes that way, he's going to really put even more pressure on her. That's why in 2028, if Newsom or a Democrat wins, Mexico is going to go extremely far left. Everything she was holding back, and she's sitting policies quietly so she can make the big changes if there is a big change in the United States. Trump has really been having a good influence on her. It's not a willing influence, but he pushes her back towards the center a lot, and something he's not been able to do with Mark Carney in Canada.
But it's also ridiculous that she's like, all these people are saying, oh, sovereignty, and oh, we were invaded, blah, blah, blah. They didn't come to civilize us. Well, in that I will agree, because we're still beheading people. We're still kidnapping people. We're still ending their lives no matter what. We still have cartels running essentially all the arms of government. So,
are you going to play the clip?
Oh, no.
It's in English.
Oh, I closed it. I thought it was in Spanish.
Okay, let's get the next clip is in English, so just don't close it.
Yes, this is from Subi, so I know it's in English. Subi says, quote, El Salvador is transforming for the better. Interview with Milena Mayorga.
It doesn't matter if you were poor or rich, everybody suffered from gangs. We were a failed state. These superpowers countries, they want to tell you what to do.
I travel a lot, and I can honestly say it's one of the most optimistic countries that I've been to.
You need a strong leader like President Bukele, and I think the instrument from above.
Please introduce who you are and what your role is.
I work for President Nayib Bukele, the best president, of course. It's such an honor and privilege to represent El Salvador in Washington, D.C. Before, I think we were like only 2% of our GDP in education. Now it's more than 5%. We're working in the base of what you need, like, which is health, education, and of course, security. Because without security, I think it's very complicated for any country to advance. I think migration harmed us a lot because of the disintegration of the families. Traditional media outlets, their narrative is very hard against El Salvador. Social media help us a lot to spread the good news.
Why do you think so much of the media coverage has been negative and critical?
Okay, and that being said, you're going to see a rise of a lot of these right-wing leaders, and they need to consolidate a lot of power to really crack down on crime and other things. And when they make a difference, it's great. But once that power is consolidated for a long period of time, you're going to really need to keep an eye on a lot of these countries. So right now, with the rise of Bukele and Milei in Argentina, it's a great rise. Milei's already been caught in a couple corruption scandals. As he consolidates more and more power, even though I like these leaders and I like the ideology, you got to be very, very careful that they don't over-consolidate power.
Mm-hmm. And in El Salvador, there has been that worry too, and we do have a subscriber that is from El Salvador that kind of gave us a different picture from what independent and and like anti-woke news outlets and independent journalists have been saying in English, at least, about El Salvador, that Bukele did try to, for example, change the way election and re-election works. So that was worrying a lot of people that were initially throwing support behind him by saying, hey, this is kind of going against, democracy, and it seems like you are wanting to consolidate power and keep yourself in power for way too long. But it looks like some of the fears may have been quelled. But again, as you say, we're going to see, we also saw Cast in Chile just get elected, and he's a far-right man with a mustache.
What we seen was the pink wave. That was the extreme liberal ideology go through Latin America. As that power started consolidating, it started to corrupt more and more and more. Now you're seeing the opposite. You're seeing the right-wing wave, but it's the beginning of the right-wing wave. So there's a lot of hope, and people are on board with this stuff. But since they're literally changing a lot of the people that are in the systems and the mechanisms for corruption, they haven't had a chance to build their own mechanisms of corruption. As the longer that they're in there, the more mechanisms of corruption that get built. And hopefully there's just an eye kept on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go into RUMBLE now. And Kanye West is going to be the first story over there when we get there.
So YouTube, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Thank you so much to Rafa for the 50 and 200 peso super chat. Our first
Muchas
super
gracias.
chat. Thank you so much. And also thank you to Ron and Non and Ethel for all your comments. We'll see you over at RUMBLE in just a second. Follow us there because YouTube doesn't like us to speak freely.